order stopping the strike.
And moving on is that two Kenyan activists, Bob Njeri and Nicholas Okoh, have been allegedly abducted in Uganda under unclear circumstances. The duo had travelled to Uganda on Monday, September 29th, with two Ugandan colleagues. They later split ways in Kampala, with Njeri and Okoh continuing on to join opposition politician Bobi Wine's campaign trail in Buyende and Kamuli districts. On Tuesday, Njeri was seen addressing supporters at a campaign rally alongside Bobi. The following day, the two Kenyans were travelling with a friend when they stopped at a petrol station in Kamuli for car repairs. At around 3 p.m, witnesses say a grey van with 4 armed individuals pulled up at the station and reportedly bundled Njeri and Okoh into the van. The Social Health Authority has issued a firm clarification regarding the employment status of Andrew Rotich following public concern and calls for an independent inquiry by the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. In a statement, Shah denied claims that Rotich had been fired, saying that he remains an employee of the public service, currently holding the position of senior officer. Shah chairperson Abdi Muhammad emphasized the authority's commitment to integrity and due process. ISPAC had earlier raised alarm over media reports suggesting that Rotich, a whistleblower in a high-profile corruption case, had been dismissed from his role. And finally, the Director of Public Prosecutions has presented 4 additional witnesses in the murder trial of John Matara, the man accused of killing socialite starlet Wahu last year. Matara is charged with the brutal murder of Wahu on the night of January 3rd, 2024 at an apartment in South B, Nairobi. Her body was discovered the following morning, hours after she was seen entering the building with the suspect. A post-mortem examination revealed that she had been strangled and sustained a deep cut wound on her thigh, with which severed a vein. The prosecution called 4 more witnesses, a clinical officer, a police forensic analyst, and 2 security guards who offered critical testimony about the events leading to Wahu's death. Remember to continue enjoying the EPL matches across our radio stations, Berur, Radio Maisha, and right here on SpiceFM. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord. It shouldn't be like that.
I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu,
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody is human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Sitaki kuongea today." Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay. Good morning. Kila mtu ketini chini. Kaini chini. What do you say? Ketini. Kaini. What do you say? Hey, good morning.
Salama.
Abbas.
Kwaje?
Mimi niko salama.
Napenda shati yako.
Asante sana.
Someone would confuse you.
For what?
To be a secretary general.
I'm a secretary general of my own party. Pushing my own political agenda.
Which party?
Umeuda yako.
Umeuda shamba yake. Kazi yake ni kusukumana na vitu kwa barabara.
Unakuonea
bari sana. Pare kwa 18.
The only color missing is green.
Green, eh?
You know?
Green is missing.
Hey, Okari, umambiwa, you're glowing today.
I'm glowing. Yeah.
Nini? Umeweka nini kwa uso? It's from inside.
It's the glory.
It's the glory.
No. How the glory.
It's the glory in the
blushed.
morning.
Shine
Do with
bright.
that information what you wish.
I'm blushed.
Shine bright like a diamond.
Blessed and blushed.
I'm so blessed.
Blessed.
Nice.
How's your mornings? Day 2 of the month.
Imagine October 2nd already here.
Imagine.
Wow. Tuko hapa. Tunaendelea. I have to say something to you. I'm very sorry. Yesterday I made a promise, but unfortunately I have not lived up to my promise. I was supposed to make jollof rice yesterday, but things took a different turn.
For the very first time in my life, I was going to take a bite of the jollof rice. And you know how you tell a kid, okay, tomorrow I'm going to buy you a toy. They dream about it, they wake up in the morning, that's the first thing in their mind. That was me. I was looking forward.
I'm so sorry.
My appetite was appetizing.
So, this is the thing. This is what we're going to do. So I'm going to make it this weekend. And they say jollof like egusi, the next day is when it is sweeter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Proper.
So you would not have enjoyed it this morning, and as if
jollof is rice.
Yes, but the process of making it, when it settles, when this, as we say in my language, when it has tea. So now, when you eat it on Monday, now, if you had eaten it today and you eat it tomorrow, you would be able to see that.
You ate it cold?
No, haba. No, you won't make it.
Okay, so wait. So okay. So it's just like any rice. You go buy pishori or whatever rice, right? Then you just mix it with other things, then it becomes jollof.
Yes. Jollof
I have no idea.
Jollof is actually the process.
Is the not the rice?
Not the rice.
Like the pilau rice or biryani rice.
It's like okay. So you have pilau, you have biryani.
Yes.
It's jollof, right?
Okay.
But it's actually stewed. It's rice that has been stewed in tomatoes and pepper and onions. The process of making that rice is now jollof.
Yeah.
And it becomes jollof at the end of it.
It's like pilau. It's equally the process. It's what makes it pilau.
I make very good pilau, by the way.
You do?
I do
So
make
now
very good
since she's
pilau.
doing Monday,
So now I'm
Tuesday.
bringing jollof on Monday. You bring pilau on Tuesday. Koba hakaba.
We eat rice back to back.
Why not?
Why not? Can you not eat rice today and eat rice tomorrow? If you can eat ugali today and then tomorrow and then forevermore.
No, me, I don't. I can't. Eat ugali today, eat ugali tomorrow.
I don't even know how people do it twice a week, man. Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
And then this gentleman will do biryani on Wednesday then.
Oh, you want biryani?
Yes.
Which kind of biryani? The one with popo
Chicken.
or just with yogurt?
Chicken biryani.
Chicken biryani.
Yeah.
He was not even thinking about the protein. He said yogurt or popo.
Yeah. Popo.
But
Welcome to the world of biryani.
Okay. So Monday we eat jollof, Tuesday we eat pilau, Wednesday we eat biryani, Thursday fried rice.
No. Evelyn will come with njahe. Evelyn.
Oh my God. Evelyn ujambiwa Paul.
Evelyn, did you
She
know
actually
what
loves it. That's what I'm saying. She loves njahe. Yeah.
How you know this particular piece of information, we shall not interrogate further.
Don't.
Wacha tutu, wache mali.
Iko.
Thanks.
I can't stand njahe. But anyway. Njahe is not for everyone.
Yeah, so my promise held.
Yes.
Monday morning. So now on Sunday, whatever you eat, just know that Monday morning
Jollof
is whatever. Sindio? All right. On that note, wacha tukwambie what we'll be talking about this morning. Oh, first of all, good morning, everybody. Karibuni sana to the show. Dennis Okari, Dennis Aseto, and Okoh here with you on the Situation Room. It's the 2nd of October, and we're getting into things this morning at 18 minutes after 6 o'clock. And our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Good morning to our audience on KTN. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as we get into things this morning. Let me let you know what we'll be talking about today on the Situation Room. We'll start off our conversation today at 7 a.m. and we'll be looking into rebel rousers. Thin line between loose tongues and party positions. What exactly does it mean? We'll get into that conversation with Wanja Maina, who is the Persons Living with Disabilities chairperson of the Jubilee Party, and Joachim Simiyu is the Secretary General of the Safina Party. We'll talk with them at 7. We'll also look into a conversation for our Justice Thursday conversation at 8 o'clock. We'll be looking into prosecuting GBV cases. Now, gender-based violence is a big issue. And contrary to what would be popular opinion or uptake, it's not just against women. It's against men and women. It's against boys and girls. We'll be looking into it today with Alberta Wambua, who is the Executive Director of the GVRC, as well as Daniel Odongo, who is the founder of Lifeguard Kenya. Some cases that we're going to hear about, but then also look in terms of what gains have been made in the fight against gender-based violence. We're going to round off the conversation today with Samson Omondi, who's Assistant Director of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Shrinking space for right defenders. What are we looking at? Can you defend rights when you have what would be authoritarian governments in place? Let's look into some of those things this morning. So that's what our conversation looks like. It's Thursday. We're getting into it, and we shall talk. SpiceFM KE on X. And even as we continue with these conversations, Karibuni sana, and thank you for joining us as we do. All right, as we get into it, Mr. Aseto.
Yes. So we are in land of vanilla, land that is known for its economy being pushed by citizens living outside through remittances, continues to push the country's economy. We're into Comoros, the island, right? But let's go to the proverb that comes from this island. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. How would you interpret that?
Oh, I mean, what does it mean? The deeper the root. That's because the top of the tree, the trunk and the branches and into the leaves is just part of the tree. And no matter how tough it is, and the roots essentially are what hold you. You get nutrition for that tree from the roots, yes, deeper and deeper, and so it holds fast on the surface. So things, you imagine the foundation that you have growing up, whether it's family support, whether it's advice, whether it's the proper teaching, even in school, proper foundations of your basic forms of knowledge, that whatever then may come and try to sway you or hit you in the future, that your foundation essentially has been grounded and it's deep. So you may be blown and tossed by the wind, but you will never be uprooted. Foundations are important.
Yeah.
My interpretation will be, I mean, it's just still talking about foundation. Foundations, well, depth determines how high you go. And therefore, for me, you see a tall building, the first thing you want to check is how deep is the foundation, because you can't build a 40-story building with a 2-story sized depth. Of course you can't. And so when you see people who are very, very strong belief, faith that's unshaken, where somebody knows who they really are. You know, there's a quote. I love this quote. The quote, it's a very, very old quote. I can't remember who said it, but I've quoted it very many times, that you are who people think you are, or you are who you think you are, or you are who you think other people think you are, or you are who God says you are. And so, therefore, when you know truth about yourself, and you know who you are really, you can't be shaken by other people's thoughts or opinions or suggestions. You know who you are, and therefore you can't really be shaken. So it's depth then to get to that level where you really know who you are, where you know about your character, your value system, your faith, you have your knowledge, you have your wisdom, you've got all these things that then if somebody comes and say you're stupid, you're like,
okay.
Reflected back to you. I know I'm not. I may not have done this thing very well, but I know I'm not stupid.
There you go.
Then you're not shaken, really, because a lot of times people take in a lot of negativity and they're shaken off their foundations because you don't have depth. You know? Am I preaching?
Let's go. Let's go.
So it's a very, very deep proverb, that one. If you have strong integrity, you have strong values, you're very strong-willed, very disciplined, nothing can easily shake you.
True.
Yeah. They say Maraga, when he was taking over the Supreme Court, when he was being interviewed, he was asked whether, other times there were cases that were requiring you to work on Saturdays, and he said, no, I can't work on Saturday. And it stunned everyone. Like, you're in a job interview, you really need this job. And you're saying you can't work. So it's like, no, Saturday is my day, go to church. I just cannot. And he was not shaken, and he was not budging.
Do what you need to do, but I've
told this is my stand. It takes very strong-willed people with stands who have very deep foundation to say no to certain things. Roots matter.
Yeah, I look at it in terms of faith and values that you have. So how deep your faith is, how deep your values go, will determine how better you are at handling challenges, So if it's weak, you'll just, it's like the proverb on the person who built their house on sand, on just kawaida soil, or on a rock. That one that was built on strong foundation is the one that remained standing. So it is all based off how grounded you are, and how that will come later in the future to help you withstand the challenges, because challenges is too human. They will always be there.
Yeah. And you've gone to the coast, and you will see the palm trees. The palm trees, the winds will beat those palm trees, but they will not break.
It will just bend and come back.
They will not break.
Absolutely.
You check the foundation, it's bigger inside than what you see.
And then also think about like when such a tree is actually trying to be uprooted, it's a very arduous task to actually pull it out of the ground. And you really most times don't succeed because the roots have gone deep. All right, that's what it looks like this morning. Let's say hello to you guys as we get into things this morning. Karibuni sana, and thank you for joining us this morning. And a very, very good morning to you, Peter Kiaria. We see you. Ndu, have you ever tried mhogo wa nazi? First of all, what's mhogo?
Cassava.
Oh, cassava. With coconut milk.
Yeah, slaps. It's nice.
Oh, as in you drink the milk separately from the cassava?
Cook it together.
You boil the cassava in the milk?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So you boil the cassava, and then after it's good to go, you add the coconut milk. So it's, pretty much.
Oh, okay. I've never tried that.
You can even fry it, and then dash coconut milk on top of it. It's good. And have it with pweza, octopuses. Really good.
Okay, Chef Aseto.
We are sorry, Michelin star 3-star. Michelin star chef. Sorry. Don Sapa is greeting us, and he says, Ndu, yes, ask Okari. Are you ready?
Okay.
Are farmers from Kisii and Rift Valley crying due to very low bonus payouts after the Sudan tea ban?
It's That's a very interesting question. But the ban was early this year,
wasn't it? Yeah.
The ban was sometime early February, March, thereabout, I think. Well, I'm not so sure what's the connection, though I know the ban was, Sudan said it's indefinite.
He's just asking if they are crying.
If they're crying. I'm not so sure if they're crying because of it.
So,
though I know our exports to Sudan is like top 10.
Yep. It is. All right. Well, there's your answer. And he says hello to the dancer, Aseto. And how are we? We are fine. We're fine. Thank you. Robert Obog is tuning in this morning from Mombasa as well. Desmond Oti says, good morning, Akinyi and the rest. We've insisted that my name is Akinyi. Okay. Rose Gray says, good morning, Team Spice. Happy new month and blessed Thursday to you too. Zorata Kev is tuned in from County 032 to Kondani. Atiak, Uganda is where Hisa Daniel is. And Nyakundi Emmanuel says, good morning. Team, yesterday Okeke said their comrades paying a fee of 5,000. Please, I need to know the university. People are paying 5,000 shillings to go to university. Where? Which university is this? Can send like 4 people. Joseph Gemma says, good morning from KSA, Team Spice. Where's KSA? Josh Willie says, good morning, Watu Wanguvu. Nikondani Ashok, good morning, Karibu Sana. Melbourne is knocking again. Who's there? Melbourne is here. Jackson, tuned in, SpiceFM. Money is still pouring around, but no school capitation. Nakwambia. Very hard to see. Christina A says, good morning to you. Good morning, DND. Good morning to Flani. And he's asked Aseto. Aseto?
Yes.
Do you see the free hospital being built by Kenyan TikTokers happening?
I mean, if Kaluma is something that we saw happen, I would not be surprised if that hospital gets to. I mean, it's the will to do it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Richard Odera says, good morning, Spice. GNC Hospital, Barracks, Banks, Airport. Na mambo tutaona dunia tu. Yeah, I know. Eric Orr says, good morning, guys. And Tibbs Muke is also tuned in this morning. Good to have you. Eric Ohomo says, good morning, listening from Kenya. Bernard Nyaberry says, Okari Nyaboke is looking good in yellow. To know? All right. Douglas Kibogong says, good morning. Sorry, Ndu and Dennis, have you seen my MCA governor complain? First of all, let's start from the beginning. Who is your MCA? Then we can tell you whether we have seen him crying or complaining. Tell us who he is. Stella S, good morning. I watched, good morning, Stella. Hope it's almost night where you are, isn't it? I watched yesterday's education session. It was such an eye-opener. Is there any way we can assist a child or two, a kid or two? Well, that's a great thing, Stella. And maybe Evelyn can tell us how we can do that. There are folks who want to be able to assist some children, especially the ones that we spoke to yesterday. I just think about that one mother who's got children who've been in and out of school since January. And right now she's got a son who is supposed to sit the KJSEA.
And that kid is smart.
Is intelligent, bright. You know, top 3 always in his class, but now they can't go to school because of school fees. So maybe Evelyn can tell us how we can go about that. There are folks who want to be able to contribute towards that. So we'll put that up in a bit, and then you can see what to do. So, all right. Liam Footy says, good morning, listening from Stockholm. Best and most mature people and conversations. Asante Sana, and thank you for joining us every morning. I know sometimes folks are quiet, but it's that you're here. It's fantastic. Monica Oile says, good morning, Spices. Mutuflani, yes, okay, Muna Salimiana, you're greeting each other. I love to see it. Stan Lingashe says, good morning, great team. Jahe is slowly becoming part of hardware supply. You have to cook it properly. As in, you go to a hardware to buy mbao and glue. Unaweza pata Jahe.
Concrete.
It's not me who said
it. Yeah, it is.
Hey. So, Louis Rudasingo says, good morning, Spice. Christina said, if you don't bring jollof on Monday, we'll call you Okeke. I love it. I will not be called Okeke, I promise. Monday morning, if it's not here, you call me Okeke. Sandra Sherrier says, hello, Spice, and good morning. I guess a Belcher says, good morning. A quote, the world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page. This is true. Okay, Munendelea Kusalmiana. Douglas, okay, we see you do. Good morning. Says, let's finish the week strong. Indeed, let's do it. Wilson Malala is tuned in this morning. JDD Dot says, good morning. Aseto seems like he's got a girl from the coast.
I have lived in the coast, so yeah.
Hapana, hiyo ndio. No.
Kuishi ni tofauti na kupata.
Kuishi alafu kuishi na mtu tofauti.
Is he giving suggestions?
I don't know, but he's in Garissa and he's
and Douglas Kibogong is asking if I was in LD, born and raised in Eldoret, so yes.
Born and raised in Eldoret? Okay, sawa. But you have not answered the question. But it's okay, we understand. Okay. Bwangi Juma says, good morning, everybody. How are you? We're doing well, thanks. Atieno, good morning. Oyaore Ndu and D Squared tuned in from Kilifi. Good morning to you, my sister. Lewin Masharia says, good morning, tuned in as well. Happy new month, day 2, indeed. Agutu Ogembo says, good morning. Toti Bishop says yellow is a confident color and confidence is your best accessory. Smile, stand tall and let your light shine. Hallelujah. Thank you so much, Toti, and good morning. Just Nature says, good morning, team. Just tuning in this morning. We just want things to work. Indeed, we want things to work. Cyrus Singh says, good morning. Please tell the empowerment team that I need to be empowered too. Ajay, those ones for Nini going around. Have there been empowerments lately? I don't know. It's like a couple of weeks there's been no empowerment.
No, we went to Unga, so.
Oh, right. And we don't give empowerment in New York.
No, this is what happens. Empowerment goes to the ground, or the ground comes to either Karen or State House.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's possible that people
they're going on.
Oh, all right. It's just that maybe you didn't see.
Yeah.
Because we went to take a bite of the big apple, literally. Derek Minai says, good morning to you. Bwangi Juma, Ifwoma, to my daughter Yvonne Juma, wish her happy birthday. Well, happy birthday to you, Yvonne, and may you have many, many more. Amaya Okoh says, good morning. Invite Good Life Otete Kaspul aspirant. Boss, did you guys see the nominations that took place in Kaspul? That there were students that were filling forms. For goodness sake. Anyway, let me just keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Jimmy Monothi says, good morning, folks. And Elisha Murano says, good morning. Umeingia Uda Nani, because I'm wearing a yellow shirt. Well, you never know. Imagine you never know. But we're here all the same, and you never know. Anything is possible as we are, as we live and breathe under the sun. Where is Agola? We are putting out a search warrant for Agola. If she's not here, we'll have a problem. But Hapondo Tuko, everybody, Karibuni Sana, thank you for joining us every morning as you do. It's always lovely to have you as we start these conversations and continue them. Goodness knows that we can't do it without you. Let's look into the headlines making stories today. On the front page of The Standard, Kenya's bold newspaper, Haiti, pain and death is what is on the headline. Kenya's 15-month mission in Haiti ends not in triumph, but in tragedy. 3 officers dead, families grieving without closure, and a force plagued by understaffing, poor equipment, and diplomatic missteps. As the UN ushers in a new gang suppression force that might include the Kenyan officers or leave them out, the question lingers, was Kenya's costly gamble a symbol of solidarity or a reckless venture paid for in blood? That's the question. Now, we thought that the National Police Service and the National Police Service Commission, we thought that they had shaken hands and said, okay, let's work together. No, not so fast. AG backs Kanja now in fight to retain police payroll. The AG is Dorcas Odur, and she has thrown her support, her weight behind Inspector General Douglas Kanja in his bruising fight with the National Police Service Commission over who controls the 60 billion shilling payroll. A battle that now threatens the chain of command, exposes bitter institutional rivalries, and risks plunging the service into deeper crisis. Who's going to control it? We're still fighting. No let up now as lecturers vow to stay put. They said, teaching us in university now without money can never be us. But we lecturers, no. So as you're there talking about money that's going to be paid, help, what? Sisi tuko wapi? Home. They're saying, put, we shall stay. Boardroom wars deepen in Cricket Kenya. We'll talk about that in a bit. Revealed how Sports Kenya, let me make you guys happy, spent 607 million shillings on ghost stadiums. As in, you walk somewhere, then you say, this is a stadium. Then you rub your eyes and you say, wait, where is it? And they say, here. You can't see a stadium here. But where? Here, where you are standing is a stadium. And you say, oh, here. Yeah. Now, all of them, we've spent 607 million shillings. If you can't see the stadium, you're Shariako. Endo Patamiwani. University strike talks stall. Ish, amid 7.9 billion shilling standoff. They said, we ain't talking, Mr. Ogamba. Come on to Leti Pesa? No. Pache Kai. See, it's Christmas. By the time it's October, by the time we celebrate Utamaduni Day, the year has ended. So if you're not bringing money, we're not doing what? We're not going to school. Meanwhile, as that is happening, there are schools. We have passed midterm of the third term of the year. There are schools who have not yet gotten capitation. I'm just telling you. It's in the headline. In terms of other scams, 26.7 million shillings. There's a scam probe. Cricket Kenya, the guys who play that game with the bat, then they throw the ball. Then the game is called a test. There can be a 1-day test, a 3-day test. Then they come together, they play like that. They said that some 26.7 million shillings are to party. So they're saying the board can collapse because of things like this. That's what's going on. I'm just telling you what the headlines are saying. It's like a story. It's a movie. And while you are still there, let's go to health. In another headline on the 6th page of the Standard, patients 1-year pain scandals and unpaid claims. You make a claim, and this is according to the Social Health Authority issue. Patients, it's been tough for health. It's been tough. Meanwhile, another man that it's been tough for, their collective father, City used to say, I can say that, Waitito, to remain behind bars in committee after third bid for bail flops. Wanted to get on bail. I'll tell you that story. Anti-corruption court said, no. We are waiting for the hearing on your appeal. Cool your heels here first. Babayao, it seems like until that hearing comes, which is scheduled for some time in the future, we are not going to be talking about you being outside.
Yeah.
All right, so those are some of the things that we're looking at. We'll look into some of these stories in details as we go ahead, but that's what Standard kind of looks like today.
So the Daily Nation today has a story on milking taxpayers dry. What are we talking about? A scandal. Kenyans will foot a bill of at least 17 billion shillings in awards to contractors that are bankrupt, mad in corruption allegations, or struggling under the weight of long overdue debt. Disclosures by the National Treasury for the 2025-2026 financial year indicate now some of the firms lining up for the windfall had bribed Kenyan officials to secure the deals. Now we have 136 newborns dead amid Kiambu doctors' strike. Remember that strike that we've said it's getting into its 4th month? Well, at least 136 newborns have died in Kiambu County hospitals since the start of the doctors' strike, now in its 127th day. The deaths have been recorded at Kiambu and Thika Level 5 hospitals, according to data by the Doctors' Union. So when you talk about these strikes and unavailability of services, this is exactly what we mean. 136 dead.
136 babies dead in 4 months.
4 months.
Good Lord in heaven.
Yes. And still push and pull, yet citizens continue to suffer. What value do we put on human life?
But are they linking the deaths of these babies
to
unavailability of medical staff?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Trump has told Kenyans, we are not in the business of protecting your country. You guys need to handle your stuff. We are not in the business of coming to Kenya or Somalia and giving you guys what? Security. We shall do that inward. We shall think about the American public, not Kenyans and Somali.
Wait. Hey. So Trump is saying we're on our own, eh?
Yeah, you're on your own.
Well, to some degree. I think I support him because the over-reliance on American aid for the longest time, including military support, has put us on a.
It's a dependency syndrome.
You know, you go to the cost. So if then he's saying that the Americans will protect the American interests, why do we keep protecting their interests?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why do we host them and protect them? The port, they are there.
Yeah, Lamu,
they
are
there.
Them walking
why
around.
do we care then?
Yeah.
And you think that they're here because they want to protect Kenya?
Nope.
They're here for they want to be in Djibouti because it's next to the sea. They want to be in Lamu because they need also that wide cast eye. They want to be in parts of Kenya. It's not for Kenya. It's for them.
For them.
Let me tell you guys, there's an embassy in Gigiri. I'll not mention that embassy. But this is what I was told. When they were setting up the embassy that is near the American embassy, there was a stream of people of a certain origin in this republic that was streaming there, getting visas to go to that country. The Americans went and told that embassy, look, if you're going to stay around us, you better move this business of these people coming to queue here for visas. You'd rather move this business elsewhere. They dictated that this embassy I'm referring to was forced to have a different office elsewhere where the origin of these people will go to, not there. They don't want to see that group of people, that business around there.
And I think even that specific place you're talking about even closed down, if I'm not wrong, because anytime you're around there, it's like dead. Nothing happens there. So
you can't build like a T6 10-story building around there.
No, you cannot.
Can't. Yeah.
So tujenge our jipange.
Yeah. You know, but I think as well it's a question of it's about time we woke up and decided these are our priorities. We will look inward as well and protect our own. Kila mtu ajipange ama.
The bell rang a long time ago, man. I don't even understand.
And you remember that girl who put up the feedback mechanism during the finance bill?
Yeah.
You're talking about Njeri, 35-year-old software developer from Nairobi, has been named in the Time 100 Next 2025 list. She created a tool for public feedback on draconian taxes. We said it on this show. These are people who are supposed to be taken in and the intelligence used for good purpose. But instead, tuwashika na kuwapeleka wapi? Jela. Now, parents' agony as girl dies after allegedly being hit by a teacher. Alex Tunje had high hopes for his firstborn daughter, Ernestine Tunje, and an aspiring athlete. However, his hopes were dashed when the grade 8 learner died last Thursday after she was allegedly assaulted by her teacher.
What kind of assault is that has led to this?
She was hit on the head by the teacher, and the incident happened at Gongoni Primary School, 500 meters from her home in Tunju, Kilifi County. It is alleged that she was hit on the head by her teacher after failing to answer a question.
So you see, these are I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So still on matters education, school heads are urging the government to release school funding, because if they do not, school might just have to end early because they can't keep on having.
Oh, I can guarantee you that's what's going to happen. I can guarantee you that we're seeing that this term is supposed to end on the 23rd of October. They're going to sit their final exams in another 2 weeks or so. As they write the last paper, they'll be told go home because we cannot keep you here to continue feeding you. It's going to happen.
Yes. And then we have a very important agency in the country, and this is the police. And police recruitment is starting soon, but bribery claims arise ahead of hiring by police and military. Then you ask yourself why this agency turns out being the most corrupt in the country. It all begins on how did they get in? Did I corrupt myself in? Lazima nirudishe pesa.
Exactly.
Dio?
Well, the Star headline, Ogamba order JSS teachers to remain under primary heads. CS says Ruto team proposal cannot be easily overturned. And then revealed EACC an ending battle against forged academic papers. So a new report has revealed the serious extent to which individuals holding fake academic credentials have continued to infiltrate the public service despite increased surveillance by authorities. The report details how the silent fraud is being perpetrated in the corridors of power, including within the country's most critical institutions. The schemes uncovered are varied. MPs are probing how the government spent 607 million on feasibility and consultancy services for construction of stadiums. That story you're talking about, that did not actually start. So the stadiums are to be built in Nairobi, Mombasa, and Eldoret. The project was to cost taxpayer 42 billion. In documents tabled in Parliament by Sports Kenya, the government abandoned the projects and instead concentrated on rehabilitating regional stadia. Yes.
Okay.
Then there's a picture there of Agnes Kabarika, who's assisting a voter to register The registration officially began at Kenya Railway Station, Nairobi yesterday, but they're saying the turnout was underwhelming. Poor Gen Z turnout greets IBC voter registration. This is a story that's of a serious concern. So poor turnout. Gen Z hawaendi kuchukua register. According to the statistics, they're saying here that the expectation was, okay, we're going to have some good numbers. So IBC on Monday started continuous voter registration. Even as early signs point to dismal turnout as Gen Zs give the exercise a wide berth. Now, a spot check by The Star at various registration centers revealed clerks were left idle for hours over the past 3 days as only a few people turned up to register. The electoral agency is targeting 6.3 million new voters before the 2027 general election, majority being Gen Z. Now, 10% of the target is to be realized in the ongoing exercise. IBC officials acknowledged the low numbers that have been witnessed, but remained optimistic that the turnout would pick up once intensified civic education campaigns begin. So, this is going to be day what? Day 4.
This is day 4. No, they started Monday, Nath.
Yeah, they started Monday.
Yeah, this is day 4.
This is day 4.
Yeah.
So the last 3 days, Gen Z are waiting to register. The numbers are very, very much underwhelming. So go out there and register. Okay, President, did you know the SK show Imerudi?
Yeah.
Me, I think I have to go.
I want to go.
I will have to go.
You know what I want to go see?
Yes.
Those miniature chickens that are full grown. The little chickens.
Yeah.
It's like this size.
Yes.
But it's a full grown chicken. And it's very busy.
Little chicken.
Everywhere. But it's full grown. That's what I want to go see.
I think I'll find time and just go.
You know,
it's just be fun when we're kids, huh?
You know the way we have little person. Little chicken.
That's what I want.
So, President Ruto yesterday opened the Nairobi International Trade Fair Jamhuri grounds in Nairobi, with the climax being the competitive livestock auction. So, at the auction, champion bulls and goats were paraded before eager bidders, with President Ruto and Al-Faraz meat experts emerging as the top buyers of the day. Guess what? Hey, kuna ng'ombe inaitwa, it's the supreme champion Boran bull, weighing 720 kilos. President alinunua
almost a ton.
Wait,
yes.
wait. Let's start with, first of all, 720 kilos. How does it walk on its own legs, or it's carried?
I'm seeing the picture here. It's big.
The president bought it.
Yes, at 700,000.
Only?
Okay. So a
kg kidogo ama ni mingi?
So a kg 1,000, Bob.
Yeah. He bought it for 700k. Shika, twende.
Kwani konini?
How much usually are those cows that they normally buy for?
That guy was empowered, eh?
The cow or the guy who owned the cow?
So the guy owned the cow.
Sakaja alinunua ingine ya 655 kilos at 500,000.
Sorry, boss.
Sakaja kuna shamba.
Wewe.
Sandoko, my friend. My friend.
But I mean, Sakaja would do that and just dish in a county. That is enough meal for kids.
You think they are going to buy the cow and do why slaughter?
I said dish for county.
Hapana.
So I'm giving suggestions.
Dish in a county ni 30 bob.
Okay.
Hakuna nyama. Sorry.
Okay, so setback for KWS as court slams brakes on new park entry fees. So introduction of new entry fees into national parks, reserves and sanctuaries by KWS has been dealt a blow after the High Court temporarily stopped it. This is after the Kenya Tourist Federation, KTF, moved to court to challenge the decision to implement the new rates with a 48-hour notice amid industry concerns that the move will affect bookings and expose players to cancellations, disputes and reputational damage. So koti imesema no increase. Wachaneni na hiyo maneno yenu. So we go back to, it's an interesting story here. It's my last story here. This writer has actually, so political big names falling over each other, donating millions to give Dalmas Otieno a befitting send-off. So they're talking about a time when auctioneers actually, Dalmas, was carrying a lot of weight, and there was a time when creditors were trying to auction a lot of his properties, but suddenly he's passed, and the dead carry more meaning, it seems, than the living. And in death, the big name friends and even not so friendly have been falling over each other to donate millions. So when Otieno battled to fend off the auctioneers, hawakukua, but now suddenly in a widely circulated list online, the who is who of Kenya's political establishment gave away millions, led predictably by President William Ruto, who handed out 3 million.
Okay.
Then Raila gave 2 million.
Okay.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki makes a credible 500,000 handout to show up his boss's gifts. The list of 200 plus donors, a clear demonstration that politicians are truly birds of the same feather. They flock together. Governors, MPs, friends, who account themselves as Otieno's friends, wote walienda wakipeana pesa. Nyang'nyong'o akapeana 350,000, Mbadi akapeana 1 million, Moses Wetangula akapeana 500,000, Interior PS Raymond Omolo 200,000, Migori Governor, former Migori Governor Obado 100,000, Migori Governor Ochilo Ayako 600,000. Hey, in total, 20 million has been collected. 20 millions. Yes.
Ameenda.
And when he was alive, when auctioneers were knocking on his door,
didn't help you.
They were not there. But suddenly, everybody is trying to fall over each other. Who's going? Nani atatoa?
We respect the dead.
Where?
Yes.
Not the living.
That's a lot of money. Okay. So people are asking which schools are these that have not received the capitation. So we know that this usually is the thing. That there's some schools that haven't. Or if they have, they've received a little part of third term capitation, remembering that there was a balance from first term. So when capitation is paid in the third term, what do? Do you apply it to first and second term, what was left over? Because then you probably find yourself, or do you backdate, or do you say, okay, fine, this is for this term, and we still have a balance, and then what's going to happen the next term? But let me tell you something. That money that's extra by the time it comes to the end of the school year, it never comes. It never comes. And like we said, schools are going to go home. Schools are going to close probably early because they're going to send students home. Why keep running costs if you've not received the money? Just 3 weeks to the end of the third term, it's now emerging that primary and junior secondary schools are yet to receive government funding. School heads are now pleading with the Ministry of Education to release at least half of the capitation. Can you imagine? They're begging, okay, please, Sawa, give us half. Yeah. Jeez, man. The Kenya Primary School Heads Association says the institutions are reeling from a lack of funds that has stalled operations. Currently, all school heads are operating in debt. It's a very serious situation and needs to be addressed urgently. It's according to Fuad Ali, the chairperson of the Kenya Primary School Heads Association. The ministry had earlier explained that the delay was to allow for a cleanup of the enrollment data, a move it said would help save significant amounts of money. Remember, they were looking for ghost schools and students. They said the reason why they've not sent this money out is because they're cleaning up the system. Remember, there are 3 weeks left in this term. According to Education Principal Secretary, no, he's not the Principal Secretary, he is the Cabinet Secretary. Please, this is a mistake here. The verification exercise is the reason behind the delayed disbursement of capitation to schools. And once we ascertain the numbers, the first schools to be verified will immediately get their funding. So the question is, if this happens after students have gone home, will you actually take care of that in November and December? However, the verification exercise initially scheduled to take 2 weeks has now been extended to 6 weeks. I mean, it's not that hard. You should be able to be into the system and say, Dennis Okari Primary School, does it exist? Yes. It has 50 students. Yes. Tick, go. Aseto Mixed Boarding has, yes, no, move. It shouldn't take that long because it's in the system. That's why these things are digitized and systemized. You have it there. You should be able to verify, because then you're sending me your information. I should be able to look into the system for which you have a code. Then we play them against each other and say, does it match? It matches. Boom. And you actually don't have to do it yourself. Ding dong. Yeah. You actually just need to feed it into the system and it comes through. That's all you need to do.
And you see,
shouldn't take 6 weeks.
And even the greatest part about it is every student is always in the system, because whenever the assessments are done, it is taken back to the system. So you're able to even see Okari is here, Okari was not here.
That's why you have a NEMIS number.
Exactly.
The way you have, okay, now it's chemist. Now with your chemist number, each school also has a code. You see, like now when children were doing KCPE, you have the student NEMIS number, and when you're trying to find out results, you have to put in the school's code. Everybody has one, so you can see it in the system. So this long talk that we are verifying and extenuating and all those other things, it's a waste of time.
We're just stalling.
We're stalling. That's the truth.
I'm just thinking, why not publish? I'm just trying to think. Okay, so before you even release these funds, in the spirit of transparency, If, let's say, we're talking about where we did our constituencies, Embakasi, I think, yeah?
Yeah.
It's Embakasi.
Yes.
So say Embakasi, whatever, East or Embakasi, whatever, these are the schools listed. Do these schools exist? People will know. Hey, Ishule, Tujisikia Aseto Primary School, it doesn't exist. Then you list the name of the schools plus the amounts that they are actually receiving. Make it transparent and very open.
Make it public.
So that if then there is a school that people will say, there is no school like that exists. It will help.
Yeah.
If in the system they're having trouble finding and figuring out. But we know it's not that they don't know. They know.
That's what I'm telling you with not so many words.
Yeah.
Why are we pretending that we are going through some exercise here? What tomfoolery is this? That we are going through some exercise to establish who is the... Come on. You are the one who sends the money. You mean to tell me that every time you send money, there is no verification that's being done? You go today, put an invoice in any office. What do they do?
Exactly.
They verify and say, okay, did you actually provide this service? Did you bring the goods? Yes. Did somebody receive? Then we move. You want to tell me that you've been paying ghost schools and ghost students for years, and then it is in 2025 that you want to verify?
But then you're talking about ghost schools and ghost students, yet the very same agent is the one that registers these schools. So everything starts from you moving forward.
My
so
darling,
we know.
How do you put a school in the system with a number? It has been allocated a number. Who does that?
Yes.
See, it's the ministry.
Exactly.
The ministry is the one that owns the platform.
Yeah.
So who in the ministry is allowing this number with a code in the platform? Then you want to tell us the school, now you send us your information.
Then you can verify.
Then we verify if it's actually there. In the back end, who allowed these ghost schools, ghost students into the system through which you are paid? I don't know if am I losing my mind?
No.
You're being logical.
Sure.
But you're speaking to very illogical people.
Yeah.
On purpose. They don't want the system to work.
Simple.
They don't want the system to work. You remember when Matiang'i took over the education ministry?
Yeah.
What did he was fighting people inside who didn't want certain things to be implemented. And when he said, okay, we want to know how many school buses do we have in our schools?
Yes.
Then we want to go into this painting exercise. We have to identify school buses from matatus and the normal buses.
Yeah.
Who are the people who are fighting?
Same people.
Yes. And he had to push it and force it. Mpaka wa leo, we still see those things. It takes somebody at the helm of a ministry to make those kind of very hard decisions.
And shake. Absolutely.
Clean the register. Let's start afresh.
Yeah. I think it needs someone with deep roots.
There you go. Because this is it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then now we are saying that we're in the end of the term and students and schools will not get capitation because they are still verifying. Or they want to cover their tracks to ensure that the names of those people don't come out in the open.
Guys, the conversation we had here yesterday in Spice Baraza will tell you how the situation is in this country.
For sure.
Yeah.
Happened to Tuko at 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leo Obaga. The family of 14 people who died in a road accident last Sunday has started making funeral and burial arrangements with the national government, promising to assist in the effort. First Lady Rachel Ruto led the community in condoling with the family in Muranga as the Ministry of Health prepares to send advisors to help those affected by the accident. 3 days after the community received news of the devastation that had visited them in the form of a tragic road accident, they gathered in their local church seeking to find some solace and meaning in the big blow they were still coming to terms with.
14 of them. La muhimu sana, tutakuwa tunazika watu watano hapa kwa familia ya Mbolo. Hapa chini kuna watatu. Then katika constituency pale Maire kutakuwa na msichana mmoja tutapeleka. All the way from there tutarudi, tutatoka hapa tutaenda all the way Muiga. Na hiyo military iko hapa Kidumu. Ni vizuri watu wajue hivyo. So tutapeleka. Then on the same the family watatoka hapa all the way to Naivasha. Unaona ni mzigo mkubwa sana.
having learned something even for our nation. What if we loved one another as a nation? What if we considered everyone as a member of our family? What if when we are driving in our roads, we are not careless because we know the next vehicle is being occupied by a member of my family?
A spirited debate has gripped Kenya's online community after TikTok users announced plans to build a modern hospital funded through contributions from local creators. The proposal has gone viral, with discussions on how millions of shillings could be raised to make the idea a reality. For many, the plan reflects frustration with Kenya's public healthcare system, where shortages of medicines, underfunded facilities and prolonged strikes remain common challenges. The debate was fueled by a recent case in which Kenyans raised money online to help a young man named Kaluma Boy help his ailing father.
Hiyo hospitali zinihesabu rahisi hapa, vijana tuko wangapi? 18 million, sawa? 18 million kila mtu atoe so hiyo ni 1.8 billion. 1.8 billion tupige times 3 siku tatu, hiyo ni 5.4 billion. Siku tatu tushatengeneza hiyo modern ultra modern hospital hiyo wanaita.
The conversation gained a new dimension when head of Presidential Special Projects and Creative Economic Coordination, Dennis Itumbi, expressed support for the initiative. Speaking during the TikTok Content Creators Workshop at Glee Hotel, Itumbi said the idea aligns with Kenya's tradition of community-led health projects.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, hospitals in this country have been created by Kenyans through Sadaka. That's why you have faith and mission hospitals. You have about 100 hospitals created by Kenyans just by giving Sadaka and building hospitals. I mean, President William Ruto is currently building 70 hospitals being built by KDF. So, I mean, if TikTok can organize itself and do another modern hospital, brilliant. Such initiatives are welcome, and that's a very brilliant idea.
The debate on whether Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka will join the government continues, with Kalonzo himself insisting that he cannot work with President William Ruto. In a recent statement, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki reiterated his statement that he is still continuing efforts to ensure that Kalonzo abandons opposition politics and joins the government.
Siasa ya kuleta migawanyiko baina ya wananchi, siasa ya kishetani ya kuhubiri ukabila na chuki na migawanyiko, sisi tumesema hiyo siasa haina nafasi katika Kenya yetu tena.
At the same time, Kindiki has continued his attacks on the opposition by pursuing policies that he describes as holding the nation back by disrupting development projects. He used the opportunity to assure Kenyans that the Kenya Kwanza government will ensure that every region is developed without discrimination.
Na tuwezi kubali ale ndugu yetu anaenda kuungana na watu wengine wakora, wanafundisha yeye mambo ambaye sio yake. Yeye ni muungwana, yeye ni mstaarabu, yeye ni wakili kama mimi, yeye ni msomi, yeye ni mtu organize, yeye ni mtu ya kanisa. Mimi bado na jaribu namna hii, bado hata ule ndugu yangu, I have not given up. Yeah, I have not given up. Namna hii, don't worry, msiwe na haraka.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leo Baga, and remember to continue enjoying the EPL matches across our radio stations. That is Berur, Radio Maisha, and right here on SpiceFM.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation on this Thursday, the 2nd of October, getting into really quickly the end of the year, and things are happening. They don't really change, and even as they do change, they seem to remain the same. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose is what it usually is.
What food is that?
It's not food.
Okay.
It's a term. Plus ça change, translated is as things change, they still remain the same. Plus c'est la même chose. Okay?
Plus c'est la même chose.
Plus c'est la même chose.
Yeah, very, very, very sumptuous.
Okay, so even as things get different, they still do remain the same somehow, but we still have the conversations to try and push and make sure that some of the things that we see or sometimes don't see come to the fore. Ndu, Dennis, and Dennis with you this morning as we get into it. We're getting into a conversation around, okay, so do we then just have natural rabble rousers in terms of what happens in the nation's politics? We're getting into that conversation this hour. And Joachim Simiu is not here yet. He's the Secretary General of the Safina Party, but he'll join us soon. But the one who does keep time is Wanja Maina. She is the Persons with Disability chairperson of the Jubilee Party, and she joins us this morning as we get into this conversation. Good morning, Wanja.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm perfect.
You are perfect.
Yes.
Karibu sana, and thank you for being here this morning. And even as we get into things and getting into this conversation necessary for us to have, Dennis is going to welcome us with today's proverb. We'd love to hear your interpretation of it.
So today's proverb comes from a country called Comoros, the Union of Comoros, now an island nation in the Indian Ocean between Madagascar and Mozambique. Now, Moroni is the capital, and the major islands in this island as well is Grande Comore, Moheli, Ajuan, and Mayotte, administered by France but claimed by the Comoros. It has a population of around 900,000 people. Now, let's go to the proverb. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. How would you interpret that?
Comoros, an island in the Indian Ocean. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. In my understanding, when we talk about roots, particularly in the African context of rich proverbs, roots means a person who is comfortable in their place, they are well rooted, they are well grounded, they are well prepared and well planned. Therefore, the wind, in my understanding, means troubles. It means challenges, changing dynamics in terms of what is happening in the world. And therefore, if you are well planned, well rooted, well organized, ready to face the challenges, even if challenges come, you will at least you'll have organized yourself in such a way that those kind of destabilizing factors will not affect you 100%. Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of the typhoon, especially in the Asian countries. And you look at the kind of buildings they have with the suspended foundation. So regardless of how heavy it would come, they would still withstand that.
It'll take a knock, but it'll not knock you down.
Yeah.
There it is. So we're looking into the thin line between loose tongues and party positions, and that it seems as though you can get away with anything. Really, we saw a time whereby you could say or do the very minimum, and there would be somebody knocking on your door to ask you a question or two. Many would argue that it's still those times, but it seems that once anybody is at the podium or with a microphone, anything then that comes out of your mouth, so long as you are you hold a position in a political party, then you can basically get away with anything. And it seems that those are the times that we've been wading into most recently. Well, let's hear from you. From the Jubilee Party, Wanja, can we, or are we seeing a situation whereby, so long as I hold a party position, there's an element of power that plays there? Is it just normal politics that people say what they want, when they want, and how they want?
Thank you so much, and happy to say hello to our listeners and viewers, and also to say I'm always very happy to come to Spice because I'm a fan. I'll just start by saying that I was among the people who was very interested in the Standards headline yesterday, Rabble Rousers, where you put 3 quote-unquote dramatic photos of rabble-rousing individuals. I will just start by saying that it depends on where you sit. If you are politically dogmatic and if you are a purist, you will see it as the ill-mannered people who love drama and trouble. But for the pragmatic realist like I am, I think the SGs deserve a little bit of support for doing what they're doing. And I wish to just use one single example, the issue of the broad-based government. At the time when the broad-based, and those of us who are a bit uncomfortable with it, we call it the bread-based, at the time when they came into a very loose and amorphous agreement, the political moment at the time is that many Kenyans, including the youth, were very unhappy with the government. You remember the circumstances around the finance bill. And therefore, even if the SG of a party like ODM would have followed the party position, he's alive to the political moment. He's alive to the fact that his members are youth and they are unhappy with that position. And therefore, for me, I would say that as a person who is pragmatic, they could as well say that this one is not going well. I've been told to do this, but for me, I see it like we are not moving well. For me, I see it as political parties as room where power is contested and we don't have to agree all the time.
Does it give leeway then to then be able to say what you want? Or do we say that those who speak in public are actually holding brief for the party and that they're actually putting forward a party message by what they're saying? So we can't hold them to account, but this is the spokesman or woman for the party, so we should understand where that is coming from.
Some of the things that the SGs have been told that they have said, I wonder they're not as precarious or have caused, an atomic bomb, really. Sometimes it is just the situation that I wish to use examples. Let's take the issue of the united opposition, because I think when you mention the individuals, that is a bit of the context. Now, if you look at an SG of a political party, you see they are also the holders of legal instruments of a political party. Now, by law, you cannot be a member of 2 coalitions. That is the Office of the Political Parties Act, right? So as at now, a party like Jubilee Party is in Azimio by law. And therefore, when there is a lot of pressure for you to say that you are part of the united opposition, the SG who understands the law in the background knows that you cannot be a member of two coalitions at the same time. So when they say that, you can't push us to be in a certain side, and assuming that we would be interested in your side, there has to be some legal issues that are well taken care of. And then some of the things, like I remember in the yesterday's Standard, there was the issue of Narok, where the SG said that DCP party leader had come up with a position that they have worked together with Baba to decide the gubernatorial seat. I would say that some of these negotiated democracies and some of these local arrangements are actually detrimental to our democracy. And here is why. We are 4 of us here. All of us have political ambitions, and then you are told that some individuals sat somewhere and they decided is to vie, and therefore the 3 of us have to stand down and forego our ambitions. So I see their roles as even being whistleblowers and saying, no, this is not right. Also just looking at where we might be at clash with the laws. So I see them as individuals who anticipate, and some of the things that they are doing where they are being told they are rabble-rousing, they are actually inadvertently protecting our democracy.
So, as Secretary, can we able to separate an individual from their position as Secretary General and say the opinion that has been given, that is Aseto's opinion and not the position of the party? Yet, whatever it is they're talking about seems to be in the political sphere. Are we then saying here they were speaking their mind, but not the position of the party? Are we able to separate that?
As I said, if you are a purist, the way like the media says, the person we hosted here, these are their personal views and do not necessarily reflect the views of Spice. Ideally, that's a whole disclaimer there. But really, if you agree with me, they say that personal is political. And how we are operating now, and that's why I even love the Standard. You have become very bold in terms of journalism. Yes, it is a Standard as a personal entity, but it's political in the sense that it is responding to the challenges of the country. So if you want to create a very thin, clear line, well, we can for the vibes. But really, if you look at some of these things, personal is political. Everything is tied together. If, for example, you say that we are not part of the united opposition now, this is because you are forcing our candidate to stand down and harass us, it means the SGs are responding to the pressures of the branch officials who are very unhappy when their candidates who have worked so hard are told to stand down. That line is not as clear and as clean as we would wish, but I would imagine that the SGs are even better placed and are at a very good vantage point to understand, because they are the main administrators of the party. Therefore, when you say that we have decided, then they are dealing with the delicate dance and the politics of the branch chairman, 47 counties. They are dealing with special interest groups. They are dealing with the media. So some of the things they say are contextual and they are informed by many things beyond this is the party position. Remember, the politics of Kenya is very dynamic. It changes every other minute. So even their positions could change as we progress. But I see them as individuals who understand they deal with too many moving parts, and therefore sometimes when they say something, it is informed by many factors.
Okay. My question is, do Kenyans vote for individuals or for parties? And I ask this because when we talk about party allegiance and representing parties' views and your own individual views, then as a politician, you're looking at, and you said, it's also about following the law and this united opposition, the idea of just, there is by law what is on paper, and therefore you can't just come out and say, okay, we're standing together with the united opposition. Before Jubilee, what was there?
Before
Jubilee Party, for example?
Well, Jubilee Party, we started as TNA.
Yes.
And then TNA got into a political coalition that formed Jubilee Alliance Party. And then in 2016, there was dissolution of 14 political parties, including URP. There was even the one who passed on from Kibwezi, Alikuwa Tip Tip, and 14 others to form now Jubilee Party. So when you ask which one was there, it has been a process of forming coalitions, recreation. So yeah, that is the answer.
And so there goes my question. So do Kenyans then vote for individuals or is it parties? Because if you're sticking to the law and saying, okay, if you're representing your own personal views or it's the views of the party, Kenyans have seen time and time again politics of convenience, where if it's not convenient at the moment to join the united opposition, for example, what are the stakes? Then if the stakes are not in the party's favor or the party leader's favor or the officials in that party's, then they will not. But if they do, then they will come out and they will throw the law out of the window and they'll be like, okay, now we're working together. Do parties really care about these nitty-gritties of the laws you're suggesting?
No doubt. You see, the beauty of it is that for us to understand political parties, we have to understand them from the point of the constitution. Because before then, we've had a history of single party rule. You remember the 90s. But now the beauty of it is that now with this constitution, towards up to 2010, there was a formation of the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So that is the registrar, telling us comply here and there. So in terms of the legal compliance, we already have a watchman who is always telling us, no, here, where are the women? So in the strictest sense of the law, we have already someone who is always pushing what. But then again, and that's why I was saying we just have to be realist, at least for a moment. In Kenya, we have 290 MPs and 47 women reps. So therefore, our parliament has around 349 plus nominated, for example. Of all the 349, only 10 MPs are independent candidates. 339 come from political parties. So to answer you is to say that Kenyans do not love individuals who are there alone.
Okay.
If that was the case, then we would have more independent candidates.
But if that was not the case, and this is why we can look at the fact that individuals are the ones who rally support around themselves to form parties. That's why you have the proliferation of political parties in the numbers that we've seen over time. Because if I am part of an outfit, which for this all intents and purposes we call a political party, and I do not like what has happened, or I am edged out for one reason or another, do I go and join another party? No. I go and I form my own. So people coalesce around the individual. How many times have we been told that in order for you to secure a nomination, you have to see someone, and usually that someone is the party leader. So whereas it could be parties that people go to, there is an individual, there's the queen bee in this whole thing, and it is an individual. We coalesce around individuals. The party just becomes a vehicle for expediency. But it is the individual that is drawing all of this attention. And that's why when we think of a party today in Kenya, we can connect it to someone. Name them. You name the party and you go directly to the party leader. Why is that? It shouldn't be. We should be able to see parties and connect them to the issues that they fight for. But we don't. In the US, for example, when you talk about things like human rights, you know which party you're talking about.
The Democrats.
When you talk about capitalism, you know which party you're talking about.
Republican.
When you talk, you know exactly what. When you're talking about conservatism, you know who you're talking about because it's ideological in nature. The people who form the party then are agents of those ideologies. It doesn't happen like that here. So people are chasing people and not the party. Now, is there a danger in that?
Well, no. Let me just take us back to our way of organizing. And by the way, this is even tied to colonialism and how they try to put us in some tribes, and we can discuss that another day. If you look at most political parties in Kenya, you can also trace them to a region. If you look at a party like Ford K, even though they are national, and I'm not talking ill of them, you can say that they are predominantly amongst the Luhya people. If you look at the party like ODM, you can say they are predominant in Nyanza, but they also have roots in Nairobi. For our party, at least for now, I can say we have in a way we are national, considering that we have a governor in Isiolo and an MP in Lamu. But then again, I think that is the reality of our political situation as at now. But I also wonder if it's a Kenyan problem per se. If you go to Uganda, for example, you don't even know the name of Bobby Wine's party, but you know Bobby Wine and whatever he's creating. Besigye has enough problems already. And even NRM truly is just Museveni's platform. If you go to CCM, for example, you can just see the tentacles of government from the top to the bottom. For me, I would say that in an ideal situation, political parties around the world should be issue-based. But in our Kenyan way and how we operate, it seems like the very nature of political organizing is winning the next election. And that's why you see people changing coalitions. ODM was COD, and then it moves to NASA. Then we're in Azimio. Now we are in the fourth coalition, for example. Is it the way it should be if you look at global example, the Labour, the Conservatives, and how they hold each other to account? No, it's not. But now in Kenyan position, and I remember of particular interest is actually ODM in this context, and here's why. The party leader of ODM said that Sifuna is talking my position, don't be hard on him. But then Sifuna is saying we are in opposition, but now we have a broad-based arrangement with the government. The line gets blurred by the day. So to answer you and to just talk about the politics of convenience, as Dennis and Du have asked, well, I would say that it is, if you look at it, really, there's an element of tribal and ethnic mobilization in terms of political formations. There's also coalescing around individuals. Yes, that is a fact. But you've seen parties attempting to talk about issues. Our party leader, because we painted the town red last Friday, Jubilee Party.
Red, yeah.
Yes, and our party leader attempted to get us, to remove us from this narrow way of thinking that here we are better than everybody else, to actually align and state the policies that we're able to advance, Linda Mama, issues of security, issues of education, so that now we can also start expanding our minds and having some form of higher order thinking that we are advancing issues. So to talk about political parties broadly in Kenya and in Africa, a lot is to be done.
Are we able to get away from politics that focuses on what an individual is pushing, but to what one would say a manifesto, say a Jubilee's manifesto is this? Are we able to say, as much as this is a party leader and this is what he has said, our party position based off our manifesto and instruments of power that we have and ideologies that we have, this is what we're pushing? Because most of the time you find that what the party leader will say, that is what becomes law. Are we able, because they say the party is for the people, then are we able to say that the people, the members of Jubilee, this is what they're pushing and not what the party leader is pushing?
But even the party leader is part of the people. You know, I think one of the things...
Is it greater than the members?
Not quite. Actually, in any political party in the organogram, the toppest decision-making organ is the National
NDC.
Delegates Conference. And that's why you see most political parties are doing their National Delegates Conference. But I think we could also say that by very nature of we have a political culture where after elections, it's like political activities go down kidogo. And then now, because we are headed towards like 1.5 years to an election, you see heightened activity. Safina had their NDC, Jubilee had their NDC, which has been the most talked about so far. I know other people are planning their NDCs in coming days. So political leaders also respond to the issues that are being discussed. For example, right now in Kenya, we've seen heightened activities of the youth talking about economic marginalization. I would imagine that like any politician would not want to deviate from that position that is felt by the youth and say that the youth are now happy, everything is okay. So you've asked me, political parties, ideologies, and individuals and the Kenyans. This is an unpopular opinion that I hold. I wonder if it will be highly accepted by the public. The voters and the Kenyans are not necessarily very, very innocent in this grand scheme of conversations. And here is why. They are always trying to put the political leaders in a certain way. Ask me why. If you host a group of people to your meeting, before you start telling them about ideologies and things, you'll start first to panga them financially. So there is a way that it's a whole, assuming it's a bad thing that the politics do, it's an ecosystem that is enabled. It is a cycle. do this, do that. If I have an additional moment, I'll tell you about my values as a Christian. I happen to be a Christian. In the good book, they talk about the parable of the seed sower. Now, the seed sower was walking there near their market, his shamba, and he was planting seeds. One fell on a fertile ground, the other one fell in a bad ground, the other one was eaten by the birds. Now, of interest to note is that seed sower had the same seed. The question was where they fell. The ones that fell near the bad, they were eaten, the others were stepped on, and the other ones did very well. The very nature of political organizing in Kenya also falls in different grounds. And for the purposes of this example, the grounds is usually the voter and the people we interact with. Sometimes they are the ones who push us, even they mislead us actually. So they are not entirely innocent, and that we are planning, all seated there on the top planning bad things for them. They'll push you in a certain direction. They'll say, wewe ujua tunachagua suti. They will make for you an alignment. We have 6 ballots, tunataka hivi. So those debates around we are dealing with individuals and not parties do not arise, because if that is the case, then we could have examples in county assemblies and in parliaments where individuals voted for individuals and not parties. In Murang'a, for example, all the elected MCAs are from UDA except 3.
Do you think that as they do that, that they're considering the position of the party when they're making decisions, when they're voting? Are they considering the position of the party, or are they considering the desires of the political leader of the party?
But you see, politics is about campaigns and manifestos. If you come here before them and you tell them, now you have had dynasties, the rich, and now we are the hustlers. If you are so juicy and dramatic, they will think that you are the one who is lifting people from the bottom to the top. How you behave after that is a whole different ball game. So the thing about politics and campaigning, that's why people campaign. It seems like you have to get the juiciest lie so that the people can love you more.
But people still go along with the lie throughout the 5 years or however long the term is going to be. I'm talking about individuals who get on the party ticket, as it were, to get to where they're going. They still continue to play the tune or dance to the tune. Because that's what I'm saying, that when we look at the very least in terms of representation at the MCA level, going to member of parliament, you will find that party positions dominate over people.
Yes, the people who have been elected.
Yes.
Yes, and that is, party positions. That's why, you see, I wonder why it looks like an entirely bad thing, because let's take an example of the UK, for example. We have the Conservatives and the Labour. The one that is in government is the Labour for now, although they keep changing. They have a high turnover of prime ministers. But for the purposes of this example, there is a particular direction that the government, because when you are, let's say, let me even go back to Kenya. That's why we have the leader of the majority, because they are trying to advance the position of the government inside of the parliament. There is nothing abnormal about that. That is how it just works. So hardly their job is to whip them in a certain direction. I wonder if it's always the correct decision, for example, on the issue of selling Adani or the issue of the finance bill. But it just so happens that if you are the party in government, at any given time you are whipping your members to the right direction.
But I'm going back to my original point, that for people to achieve nomination, even whatever MCA, member of parliament, there is a ring that they have kissed. So when they're making decisions later on, having won a particular seat, do you really think that they're making those decisions because it's the party position, or they're remembering the ring they have kissed? That's my point.
But
they're not, you see, because if they were, they would be able to say at some point, actually, you know what, I'm a member of this party, but I feel as though this direction that we are taking is wrong. But because of the fact that they're subservient to the character who leads the party, they will say yes forever and forever, even if they disagree fundamentally with what has been said. And I think that's the problem, because if we were based on ideology, if we were based on issues, then you would see the line being told that if somebody's going to go in a particular direction against the economy, or if the decision that they've made would be a faux pas, they would then be able to say, actually, stop, guys, we can't do this, because it goes against the fundamental reason why we formed in the first place. But that's what I'm saying. Parties are being used as vehicles for individuals to get where they are going, not because they necessarily agree on a particular point.
Yeah, true in a way, but no, don't you think you could also give a few a benefit of doubt that they didn't kiss a ring, they were just competent, they were
those
the
are
best.
The 10 independents that you're talking about.
No, but we've seen, for example, if you go to, without looking like I'm promoting any side, you sort of look at, let's say, Homa Bay, and you see that the governor, against very many challenges, really pulled herself by the bootstraps to actually try to, to support her county. What I'm saying, instead of focusing on painting it too negative that they had to, some people were subjected to actually competition. And let me give you a perfect example.
I'm sorry, but interestingly enough, I don't necessarily think that it's wrong. What I'm saying is, if that is the way that it's going to be operating, then call it different. Don't call it democracy, and don't call it that political parties in the original design were meant to follow ideologies and issues. Then say that Kenya is working out its political partyism in fear and trembling in another sphere. Don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't work that way in Kenya. We've seen.
But democracy is work in progress. Now, we had used the example of the Democrats and the Republicans and the Labour, but the Conservative Party attained 100 years, I want to believe. I think we should also try to be contextualized. Until 1991, Kenya was a single-party democracy. We are being ruled by a dictator. It is only after 2002 where we saw a semblance of multipartyism. In a country where political parties have only been allowed to exist and set up structures for the last 20 years, we really have to give them a little benefit. Otherwise, we can't use our example to compare ourselves with. Even CCM, by the way, has been there for 60 years, if not 70. The Conservatives are over 100 years, even the Republicans. In a country where we've come from repression and oppression, in a country where Moi and Kanu are the bosses of everybody, we have seen attempts of multipartyism in Kenya for the last 24 years. We can't use that yardstick ya huko juu to compare ourselves.
But we should.
But one would argue that that yardstick is what must be put in place for us to move in the right direction. And I hear where Ndu is coming from. Because let's take, for example, the Finance Bill 2024.
Finance Bill, yes.
So we have a finance bill here that is supposed to go through public participation, that Kenyans have gone out, and I've told you rightfully, we do not support this bill. It is hurting us. Please listen to us. We're talking about millions of Kenyans against some 340 something members of parliament, right?
Yeah.
But here's a question where, because the person who rules this party has said this must pass, people have been called to status and been told this is the line, toe the line, ship in, ship out. You know what I mean? So at that point, when we're talking about individuals being able to stand by themselves, understanding that the power that they have been donated to them by the people, but choose to listen to one individual who has their own interest, are we able to say as parties, even if this is what the party leader is saying, I'm sorry, sir, but we serve Kenyans, and because we serve Kenyans, this is the direction we are taking? Are political parties able to go against their party leader's position?
No, in that case then, increasingly, the line between some people would say the executive is in bed with the legislature, or the line has become utter, there is no line anymore. No doubt that Parliament, in the strictest sense, should be independent of the judiciary. Not the judiciary and the executive. And that's why if the finance bill is brought by the executive and their budget people, the parliament should be able to do the public participation in a nice way and say, watu wamekata. But now, that is the way it should be, and that is the way it should be even by law. However, in our peculiar, there's an individual who referred to Kenya as a peculiar democracy, when he was writing about how we behave. And then now, because of our peculiar nature, you find in Kenya, for example, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Wetangula, is also a principal in the Kenya Kwanza government, therefore makes him part of the executive. The line and the lines are so blurred, even if at all they exist, and therefore it becomes very hard even for the parliament to be a watchdog of the people, because ideally the MP should never contradict the feeling of his people, because ideally he's just one person talking on behalf of many, a representative democracy. Is that what we experience or what we see? No, we have seen over and over again the Kenyans, like when the issue of the finance bill, when the president now called the parliamentarians there in the State House, and then he said he has changed his mind, what Adani. You could tell them excitedly saying, Igwe, now they were happy with him. Then I'm like, so you people are saying that you don't have even a position of your own, you just have to be at the mercy or being twisted by the executive. Is it the way it should be? No. Is it things, it's more or less like things as they are versus things as they ought to be. And that brings me to the next point. In the next election then, Kenyans should think harder around the individuals they are electing, around the political parties they are becoming friends with, but also around how they are warming up to campaign sloganeering, because so far they just fell in a hook and sinkers, but kimewalamba.
I have a question here. As taxpayers in this country, including yourself,
yes.
There's an allocation of billions. I was just trying to look at the figures, the current figures. Billions every year to political parties under the Political Parties Act. Now, only parties with at least 5% of the national vote then qualify for direct funding. My question is, because we're talking about political parties, individuals in these political parties, and does money in this case then reflect actual party weight in this country, or is it simply just to reward big parties? Because there is a chase to push for expansion of parties because there is money at the end of the day. And we've seen that play out quite a number of times. And my concern then is in terms of just looking at principles, looking at smaller parties that then do not hit the 5% of the vote, but could still end up representing either the marginalized, representing PWDs, representing special groups, whatever you might call it. Should they then get proportionate support because they may not necessarily have the 5% and above, but in this case, it appears like we're rewarding weight, but at the expense of what? Because should then weight be measured only by votes, also by developments or contributions to a democratic space? What's your opinion?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, really. In the past, actually, a lot has changed after 2022. In the past, it was actually, you had to have a certain number of people in parliament. But now, because after 2022, there was an amendment of the Political Parties Act, and now parties, even a party with one MCA, can get a certain amount of funding. So traditionally it was before 2022 it was the ODMs and the Jubilees and the big parties that used to get money. But now I can tell you for sure that even parties that do not have a lot of legislatures actually do get funding, albeit not too many. Now, if I could just speak into it, is that traditionally parties who have more people already have a competitive advantage, and that has been there is a caucus of parties that they don't like to be called small, the parties that do not have a lot of legislatures. So they have been pushing for more budget allocation, because that in itself is part of advancing our democracy. No doubt that the more people you have a competitive advantage, you have a voice, you have more visibility. It's just a fact of having numbers. But I can tell you, post 2022, many parties, even the so-called small, have been receiving money, not a lot, which is part of growing our democracy. But then again, even issues of the parties, because even Kitambo, they used never to be funded by the government, in itself is part of Kenyans also owning political parties, because they are supported by the exchequer. I might add that there is a...
But do Kenyans own these political parties in any way?
Well, members own by having activities, by having branch activities, by youth having
because the reason I ask this is, for example, the US, the biggest economy, the US taxpayers do not directly fund political parties. The political parties are funded by donations. The individuals who come to say, okay, you know what, we're going to help fundraise, for example. You've got private donations, public donations, fundraisings, political action committees, those that support certain causes. They're the ones that will come fund these political parties. So in Kenya, and we see what these political parties then in the US, for example, the Democrats and the Republicans, what they champion for. People understand, even us Kenyans who are not in the US, understand who a Republican president, what they represent. You look at Donald Trump, we know when he speaks, this is what he stands for, and this is the party's position, together with the people who back the Republicans. If it is Democrats, we know their ideals, we know their values, we know what they stand for. In Kenya, we can't confidently, if you were to do a poll and ask Kenyans, what does Jubilee really stand for? What does ODM really stand for? What does UDA, for example, stand for? And yet, taxpayers are paying billions to these political parties, but the political parties are simply outfits for the politicians. There is no general feel, at least in my opinion, I stand to be corrected, there's no general feel that these parties are representing people. They're representing a certain group of people, and therefore, from the beginning, from the party inception, to the very end, this is what this party stands for. Because what we always see is outfits changing. It's the same person changing outfits. So for political expediency and for elections, so you'll realize that, okay, so TNA changes to Jubilee. Then at some point, Jubilee might change to something else. All because you want to coalesce around individuals for political purposes. Then, if you talk about manifestos, not so many people understand or even know, okay, what is the party stand on abortion, for example? What is Jubilee stand, for example, on issues of agriculture, for example? What are the things that you're pushing for?
On the economy. In fact, we are told that there's one consultant who writes a generic manifesto that others will now then tweak and adopt for themselves.
Actually, it is because I love to follow the UK politics and the American politics. It's actually to be admired. You'll find, like, if there's a minister of finance, there's a shadow minister who is always countering their policies. We have a long way to go. But if I could speak a bit about financing, that financing issue is a nightmare, and here is why. The IEBC, there was a law that there was a proposal that they sent to the parliament to have something around campaign financing bill act something. So basically, the more money you have a competitive advantage in terms of voter bribery, agent bribery of everybody. So they had attempted to present a law that will cap a certain amount where you have to disclose even your source of money. I would imagine if it is affecting the people who are vying, it would also, in a way, affect the political parties. That law is yet to see the light of day, and the parliamentarians, for some reason, do not like it very much. So on the issue, for obvious reasons, but it even the IBC, there's something they wrote, and they said some of the things, like in the issue of boundary delimitation, they said there are some of the things we sent to parliament, they are yet to give us a feedback. On the issue of campaign financing, for example, there are those people who spend 50 million, there are those who spend 1 million. That area is ridden with controversies. You never know. Some people have said there was even, when they were trying to make that law, they said that even terrorism money could make its way into political organizing. So it's yet to be legislated, and for some good reason, nobody wants to go to where it is. Political parties in Kenya, honestly, require broadly to read the mood of the people, and that's why, as you are saying, there seem to be individual outfits. But then again, we also have to be cognizant of some of these issues that are affecting us, and that's why I said ethnic mobilization. Parties are formed. Traditionally, political organizing in Kenya was around a regional kingpin who is advancing the interests of the Maasais who have been left from the government for so long. So that will be him and his people advancing their issues. Now, us, we are the Kikuyus, we pay a lot of taxes, we need 1 man, 1 shilling, then we have our outfit. But then again, a lot is changing. In 2022, moving from the traditional political organizing of tribes, we saw a new model of social economic, the hustlers vis-a-vis the dynasties and the people with money. That was a new organizing principle. As we move forward to 2027, I anticipate issues of the youth, the old versus the young, the intergenerational tension, also forming how we organize and coalesce. In my view, I see it as some form of advancement from our tribal outfits to social economics, now issues of the youth and the affairs of the youth. Are we there yet? No. But how we do our political organizing, honestly, it's a bit dramatic. If you look at URP, for example, it was called United Republican Party. And now it is UDA, United Democratic Alliance. You ask yourself, within a period of 6 years, how did a Republican become a Democrat? You know, it doesn't tie
because it
was never meant to do that in the first place.
I think people sit down and discuss, okay, what should we call our party?
Yes.
We come up with just a name for registration, and then the person who owns the party, because we've heard there's quite a number of, it's not necessarily a party stand. I've heard, for example, in the case of ODM, I know they're not here to defend themselves, but you will hear conversations around if Baba says right, we go right. If Baba says we go left, it's not about if the party says. Unlike these other jurisdictions we're talking about, where it's not an individual, the position is around the party's stand. It's not around an individual. In this case, if former President Uhuru Kenyatta says it is this the direction, everybody coalesces around that direction of this one individual. It's not necessarily about the party or the delegates. Even these delegates meetings we normally do.
For example, is Donald Trump the head of the Republican Party?
Donald Trump is ahead. No.
Exactly.
No, he's not.
He stands as a candidate and goes to the party and is nominated, presents himself amongst others from within the party. But in our cases, we'll do a delegates conference meeting, but Vitu zilikuwa decided kitambo.
And you see, Okari, that's where the problem is, because we say that this party belongs to the people and the members of the party. But let's start from who even calls for this delegates meeting. It is the party leader wakes up one day and decides, I want delegates meeting tomorrow. Secretary General organized because they want to call the delegates meeting. You know, we never have a situation where we know the delegates meeting has been called by the members because this is the agenda that we want to push. Most of the time, the agenda comes from the party leader because he wants to push specific agendas that he wants to pass.
Well, I think maybe that's what sets our party apart, because certainly our leader does not wake up one day and calls us tomorrow. I also think that there's something to be admired, and I know I've not paid for promotion of our party. If you look at the other parties that have had their NDCs, you've noticed all of them have said who is their presidential candidate. But in our party, you notice that we didn't talk about that. We just talked about putting our house together. In any case, we've had enough litigations and harassment by the government in the last 3 years. So in our party, just like taking best practices from the Republicans and the Conservatives, all individuals who are interested will present. No doubt that, you know, there will always be a first amongst equals. So that sets Jubilee Party apart in that aspect. But then again, I think broadly, when we're talking about political parties, and by the way, political party organizing is so important because it's the pathway to power and pathway to formation of government. I think as a country, then it is a big homework on all of us to actually see how we shall strengthen these systems. And now that we are here, the Gen Z, they said they are forming their own political party. I've been looking at them, and from how I'm seeing, they are not moving with speed as it should be, knowing where we are as a country. But I would encourage them to actually join the existing political parties and probably help in pushing for this change.
Do you think that we're going into not going into, I think we're in the throes of elections season already.
We are already, yeah.
And then there are individuals who may not have shown their hand at the moment, but they would like to put themselves up for consideration for office. Do you think that they will select parties based on these plans for the future in terms of the economy, in terms of social justice and the protection of human rights and constitutionalism? Will they select parties based on those, or will they select parties as avenues, vehicles to run in an election because of the traction that a particular party has, which do you think they're likely to select, and for what reason?
Your average candidate, like me, I'm seated there in Gatundu. The intention is to vie, and the goal is to win.
Yes.
Therefore, I'll be informed by many things. For example, my people, which party are they talking about the most?
Oh, there you go.
They will, because that will, we said we are dealing with the pragmatic realist, not the dogmatic purist. I'll be looking at which party the people love more. I'll be looking at the party that would increase my chances of winning, because even in Kenya, and we are in the media even, you people define the race. You talk about the 2-horse race. Even you can see on broad daylight which is the horse, which one is not. But then again, I would imagine that will change. But so far, really, people look at where their chances of winning are. In any case, we have seen people in parties that are well organized. You can just tell that, for example, the top 3 political parties in Kenya have almost 90% of all elected legislatures. Then you make a pragmatic decision.
Okay, so it's a popularity, and that's what fuels the decision for which vehicle you will use.
It's a popularity context.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, if you take that, can we comfortably say that Kenya's politics towards also elective politics is then largely based on an individual? Remember where we started from?
Yes.
And we said, no, not necessarily because whatever. But based on what you've just said, then do we come round back to that and say, good luck, Kenyans, if the person that you select is going to then be able to meet other atoms of energy towards sorting out. But apart from that, it's on the individual whims. Can we go back and say that?
Well, it's based on the political party yet again.
Is it?
But I don't get the trick question.
No,
but
I mean, you've just said that I want to vie. The goal is to win. Right? So I'm going to join the party where people are talking about it, where people are saying it has most traction. So you and your ideologies can roast for all I care at this point, because the goal is to?
The goal is to win.
So politics based on an individual and how they can convince, isn't it?
Politics in Kenya is the chances of you winning is directly tied to the political party that will help you. In fact, in some regions, they say that let me mention Luo Nyanza respectfully. They say that ukiwa na ticket ya ODM ni kama you are halfway past the goal, the winning post.
Yani anza kutayarisha homecoming.
Anza kutayarisha. Uko tu uko mbele, and that's why hata wenye wanashindanga na other parties inakanga kama news. Inakanga kama, more or less like the man biting the dog, but overall that is the way we move. Is it necessarily a good thing? I wonder if it's a good thing on the overall. Because ideally in a pluralism country, people should be able to follow values and ideologies. But in our country, with a very young democracy, with political organizing, with political parties that were allowed to operate nicely in the last 20 years, we might not be there yet. We might not be able to compare ourselves with the conservatives. We can only take good examples from them. But that's just it. If anybody is vying with CCM in Tanzania, they have the elections in this month, October. The chances of you winning are really high. It just so happens. Yeah. And
that's why I have a problem, my taxes being deducted to pay to fund political parties. Because we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So why are we funding something that's not, is like...
You're funding the journey.
You're funding the journey.
Yeah, to there.
Not to answer. Buy your own tickets, get your own vehicle, and start that journey. Then tutakutana katikati Mtitondei, and I'll be like, okay, you know what?
Let me pay the rest of the
help you. This journey has no destination, man.
It is, democracy is work in progress. Every day we keep pushing. For example, in the 1964 parliament, we didn't have women. Tunakuja tukiendelea now, even though we might not have the right number of women as per the law, at least we have 22% of the women. It's work in progress. Every day you move like this, you move like that. You've seen how attempts to dissolve parties take away from our democracy, like the challenges we had. So it's work in progress. Sometimes we move, sometimes we get challenges.
Okay. Wanjamaina is the PWDS chairperson at the Jubilee Party, has been our guest this hour. We'll see how it goes. But if it's a work in progress, let's see. Work in progress at some point leaves the file and goes to the output. Let's see how it goes. Good morning and thank you for being here with us. It's 8 a.m.
Long live democracy.
All right.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Public university students are expected to join lecturers in their nationwide strike today to pressure the government to resolve the standoff and resume classes. The students' leaders gave a 24-hour ultimatum that ends today, warning that the continuation of the strike will disrupt the academic calendar, thus affecting them who are supposed to complete their studies and graduate this year.
Demand for concrete public stated plan for the recovery of lost time, including revised academic calendar to prevent this disruption from becoming lost semester or delayed graduation for thousands of students.
Any delayed academic calendar, they shall compensate it.
Yes.
As we know, right now there's an ongoing strike of the lecturers. We will not sit back and relax while these people are delaying our dreams in this nation.
Yes. This comes as lecturers and university staff insist that their strike will continue until the government implements all their demands. WASU Secretary General Constantine Wesonga and his KUSU counterpart Charles Muhwana accused the vice chancellors of giving false information to the public about their strike.
What vice chancellors and the councils are currently telling the public, they're misleading the government, they're misleading the public. And if you want to know when a man or a woman is desperate, is when he or she resorts to threats, intimidations, and rumor mongering. Vice chancellors are now peddling lies. They are running away from facts. But should the government confirm the verified figures? You are doubting that the government might not confirm these figures. The funds be disbursed to public universities on an equitable basis. Joker, huh? You are doubting a court judgment that should the government verify. It is optional. This is the message to the whole country. 7.9 billion is non-negotiable.
However, when he appeared before the Senate, Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos Ogamba insisted that the government is yet to understand the amount of money owed by the said lecturers. The lecturers are pressurizing the government to pay them their salary arrears of up to 7.9 billion Kenya shillings arising from the 2027 CBA, 2021 CBA.
There is a question of how much is outstanding between what the unions are asking for and what the government is saying is owed. So because of that, the teams went to court and the court ordered that the strike be injected and they go to a conciliator and have this amount verified, after which the settlement of it can be agreed on. So there is an order stopping the strike.
The National Assembly has passed a motion to privatize the Kenya Pipeline Company in a tense session. Opposition MPs walked out of the chamber protecting the decision, claiming that the motion was tabled and passed without public input. The MPs have now threatened to take the matter to court if the privatization bill is passed. They say the process lacks transparency and is aimed at benefiting a few people while the public remains poor.
Bei ya mafuta leo ikiongezeka, ambayo tunaamini itaongezeka, sasa ni mtu binafsi ndiye atakuwa akitawala mambo ya Kenya Pipeline. Hii ni ukora wa hali ya juu, ni mipango na mikakati ambayo William Ruto analeta, ambaye ni ya kustaajabisha sana.
The sale of Kenya Pipeline has been sneaked in about 30 minutes after members were already in the chamber. And we are going to go to court as a royal opposition, the loyal opposition and the united opposition, to make sure that Kenyans' assets are protected.
However, the government side, led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, insists that the privatization will bring greater accountability and transparency.
The grounds for this privatization is all crooked process, Honorable Speaker. All crooked, all skewed. You are told they're spending lawsuits amounting to 5.7 billion. Your guess is good as mine. Who are the claimants? Who are the lawyers? And who are the brokers?
This issue of Kenya Pipeline will bring a lot of excitement.
And it's good for the Honorable Udo to speak to the gallery
and excite those that he seeks to excite. The matter of inclusivity, transparency, and accountability have become cardinal in these laws.
The eyes have it.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leo Baga, and remember to continue enjoying the EPL marches across our radio stations. That is Berur, Radio Maisha, and right here on SpiceFM.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Looking for convenience, variety, and speed all in one place? Welcome to Digger Shop, the official e-commerce platform by Standard Group PLC. From the latest electronics and fashion must-haves to home essentials and unique Kenyan crafts, we've got it all. And guess what? Enjoy countrywide delivery within 48 hours straight to your doorstep. Shop smart, shop secure, and shop with confidence. Visit shop.digger.co.ke. That is shop.digger.co.ke. Digger Shop. Dig it, shop it, love it.
All great! Feel the pure, unfiltered power of football on Star Times. Precision, athleticism, football as it's meant to be. That's the Bundesliga experience. Electrifying performances from Germany's finest. Feel the passion, artistry, and strength. The power of our football. La Liga brings you flair and creativity of Spanish football. The rising stars of the Saudi Pro League. The high-stakes energy of the Saudi Super Cup. And the unpredictable thrills of the Carabao Cup. Your screen is the center of the global game. Renew your subscription today at only 329 shillings for Nyota Bouquet on the aerial decoder, or 549 shillings for Nova Bouquet on the dish decoder. This isn't just football, it's passion, drama, glory. Download the Star Times app to never miss a match, even when you're on the move. Star Times, enjoy digital life.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, at 10 minutes after 8 o'clock, good morning and welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Tuesday morning. And as we get into it and continue, good to know that our guests are here and rearing and ready to go. And if you're wondering, our live streams are still up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. We continue this conversation with our audiences on KTN. Wherever you're tuned in, around the city, the country, the region, and the world, this is the Situation Room. Ndu Dennis and Dennis with you today as we discuss issues. It's Thursday, and so we're going to go into a Justice Thursday conversation at this point, and we're going to be looking at one issue that has been quite sensitive for a time. Worlds have come together to, and when we talk about worlds in nations, but coming together as the world to try and see a reduction of these cases, but they still continue to hit us front and center. We're going to be looking into prosecuting GBV cases as our Justice Thursday conversation. Joining us, two guests in the studio. Daniel Odongo is the founder of Lifeguard Kenya, and he's here with us this morning. Good morning.
Morning to
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And Alberta Wambua is the executive director of the GVRC. Tell us a little bit about that in a bit. Alberta, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for being here today. And even as we get into things this morning, let's welcome you in Situation Room style. Dennis is going to share today's proverb, and Alberta is already smiling. So, good luck with that. We'd love to hear your interpretation.
Yeah. Proverb today comes from Comoros, a country that borders both Mozambique and Madagascar. And when you talk about this country, its economy is fueled by agriculture, fishing, tourism, and remittances. And the cash crops is vanilla and one called ling and lang, which is used in perfume and clothes as well when it comes to their food. But let's go to the proverb today. The tree with deep roots fear no wind. The tree with deep roots fear no wind. Alberta, let it go first. How would you interpret that?
That if you're, I was about to say deeply rooted, but if you're grounded, and grounding takes time, takes time from experience to learnings to a lot of things and support. So if you're really grounded, whether it's an institution or a person, no amount of distractions, which for me is the wind, that's going to get you off course.
Yes. How would you interpret that?
Oh, I think it is something whereby you yourself, you manage yourself strong, and you put some mechanism to defend what you are doing. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. To keep yourself strong, essentially, foundations matter. So let's interrogate this issue a little bit, shall we? Gender-based violence, for the longest time, maybe it wasn't even called gender-based violence. We talked about assault and things like that, and then the words changed over time, and it's not just women in relationships being beaten or being assaulted or being raped, and now it's men and it's boys. So it's girls, it's boys, it's men, it's women, but gender-based violence is still a big issue. Let's take an outlook over it for now, Alberta. And what are we looking at with the organization that you work with in terms of an outlook over GBV? Is it better or worse?
I'd say it's worse. I'd say it's worse. Where I work, we've been in existence for 24 years. Looking back, and just to also start with how then the definitions have changed, so to speak, because of better understanding. I would say maybe better understanding and the emerging trends is that the first, when it started, when GVRC started, actually it wasn't there. It was just Nairobi Women's Hospital thinking would get rape cases, and only rape cases is what they thought would happen, and offer free support. Then, of course, over the years, the number kept rising. So why I say it's gotten worse is that just last year, from April 2024 to March 2025, we supported over 3,464 survivors of gender-based violence. And that's like when there's no social disruption, when there's stability, there's no elections, there's no COVID, and so forth. And this has been like consistent over the years, despite GVRC now growing into 8 gender-based violence centers and setting up other 13 gender-based violence centers in county government hospitals, and also then having other hospitals providing the support. So I would expect that the numbers would be less. Again, when you go to studies and when you go for community awareness, you realize then that there's a lot of underreporting, because then for many reasons, you want to keep the family name, or people do not understand what gender-based violence is, or you don't know the reporting mechanisms, or you fear intimidation. For many reasons, it's not reported. So, for example, including femicide, which is not currently defined in law. Yeah. So for me, it's getting worse. It's keeping on changing how it looks, so to speak. It keeps on getting systemic. So I'll give you an example. Emerging trends now, we're talking about femicide in the last 2 years. When you talk about technologically facilitated gender-based violence, so something that we spoke about, in the last few years, but now we are very keen on that. So it keeps changing how it presents itself. The other thing why I say it's getting worse is because it's not, hardly would you suffer one form of gender-based violence, and we don't look at it that way. So I'll give you an example of child marriage. In some communities, by the time that child is married, she's undergone female genital mutilation. She's getting married, she's denied education. She's getting married, she's a child, so there's defilement every other day. There's no marriage there. That's defilement. She starts having a baby, let's say at 11. We had an 11-year-old giving birth at our facility. She's getting obstetric trauma. She's bringing up kids. She has no right to her reproductive rights. She's bringing up kids, so she's learning her reproductive rights and all it entails, actually from the husband who's 70. Maybe she's a third wife. She's not able to give proper nutrition, for example, to her child, and becomes a cycle. And you've met 25-year-old grandmothers. So again, that ties up with maybe economic empowerment, opportunities. So just to mention that it's deeper than we think, and that's why there's very minimal reporting. Yes.
And is it as prevalent? Because, when we hear these things, we are met with shock and we say, not possible, that maybe these things happened before. It's not possible that it's still happening in 2025. And we say, no, maybe those are things gone. That a 25-year-old grandmother, maybe we heard that in 1990 and, people have, come to terms with that. We can't do that anymore and that we've left it behind. No?
It is so there. It is so there in all our spaces, even in our workspaces. It's just that there are power relation issues, or we will not... even sexual harassment is a form of gender-based violence. So it's there, and it's in there in all classes, so to speak, and all areas. Just 2 months ago... Actually, let me start with 2 weeks ago, I was in Busia and we had a session I was facilitating with the security team and the technical working group, or rather the GBV players. They shared about a girl who was gang raped and got a plastic bottle inserted in her. She was not able to get the support from the Busia County Hospital, and she had to be taken to another referral hospital to be able to get that support. To go there, she had to be put in a police vehicle on the floor. That's where she was lying. So fast forward, she was treated, she was brought back to the center. She was, I think a week or so after that, released. She was gang raped again. Inserted now a glass bottle and is now dead. So to show you the reality as at now. That same time I was there, the next day, I attended the funeral of Susan Nabwire, who had been asked, by the husband, who cut her, chopped her, called the house help. In the middle of that, so the house help held the baby so that nothing happens to her. She was slapped, the baby fell, she was raped and told to clean the blood of the lady who just been killed. So just to show you the reality as at now, I was in West Pokot, so I'm not going to tell you stories, things that I have seen. I was in West Pokot like a month or so back. I sat under a tree, and this particular shelter home that also provides education, and they said, okay, how many girls do you want to speak to? I'm like, okay, just 5 girls to share their experiences in confidence so that I can understand the programming. And they came like 100 of them, and they all want to share their stories. 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds who've just escaped from child marriage.
What's happening to them?
They've been forced by their fathers and their brothers and forced into marriage, and things like that. So they've been rescued, they've run away from their marriages, and now they're there for education. So yes, it happens. Yesterday, I was in one of our facilities, 3-year-old admitted with convulsion, beaten by, the mother and the stepfather. So yes, it is happening.
I'm curious to know, because the stories are so horrific. You can't even imagine that a human being can even think and process to do that kind of harm and damage, or even kill. I'm just wondering, because the cases are so varied, like you've just said, and these are different parts of the country where you're getting all these examples from, unfortunately. but what are the overriding factors? Because you're saying the numbers are increasing, and you would assume that yesteryears, it was just cultural conversations, that people need to be educated, people need to be informed, people need to be exposed. And we live in an age right now where a grandmother has access to social media. They have access to all this information. They will know what's happening in Nairobi, in Teso. And you would assume that there's such an awareness around these things, but the numbers are still going up. And it cuts across whether it's urban or rural in this case. So what are the overriding factors that are leading to this vicious violence?
I'd say contributing factors, so one of them, I'd say economic empowerment. So for me, then there are excuses, and let me put that disclaimer. And I mentioned earlier that they're systemic. I would say maybe patriarchy, gender inequalities, so to speak, that, and gender imbalances or power imbalances. Sorry to say that. So some of them are culturally entrenched. So, for example, child marriages, the female genital mutilation, and as you rightfully say that there's technology, you expect people then to be elite and to understand. You'd be shocked that even those who are exposed, let me call it exposed, we have ladies that are brought from the UK who come and get circumcised in Kenya. So you have the same professors who would take their children for medicalized female genital mutilation. You have the same, as you rightfully said, cuts across who would abuse. So for me, it's a lot of contributing factors. So for example, economic empowerment, pressures, some of them we wrongly interpret, for example, religion, and say, the wife should be submissive. Yes, the husband should be the head. I was just in church, attended mass on Sunday at 7 a.m. I won't tell you which church. And the priest kept saying how the women are sinners. Or you two women who've just said the first and the second reading, here with beautiful voices, you're out here, doing all these sins, you're wearing 2 rosaries. And he really put the women down. And I was shocked because church is for sinners, if you ask me. Yeah. So I'm trying to let you know that it's very systemic. It's in the media. I'll give you an example. In the advertisement, you're advertising a car, you're putting a woman half naked. You're advertising a car, not a woman. And we don't realize it. The songs we watch, the exposure kids have, for example, to technology, what is it that they're seeing? And someone mentioned, and maybe you also know, adolescent, for example, in Netflix is a good example on how we can see a lot of these things happening. When we say, and I won't talk for men, but when you talk about, and we also work with boys, and 10% of our survivors are actually boys, that's approximately 400 in 1 year. So when you're having boys, for example, and ask myself, okay, when do men organize to mentor these boys? And there's a conversation now about men not stepping up, wamezoea kuwekwa, and things like that. That's what's happening in society, not being the priests, not being the provider. So there's all this pressure and confusion about modernization, and so to speak. Even when you talk about the teens, and they use, what information are they getting from the media, for example, or the social media? Because we're absent. I was here, I had to leave my house at 7, and that was even late to be here. I'll be home maybe much later. We're chasing the bag. But who's there to bring these social norms and family values and proper values to my kids? We're all working. Yeah.
So,
okay.
Daniel.
Yes.
We've just painted a picture of what the situation is like. The problems still continue, even to those who are exposed. These are the numbers that we have. This is the situation on ground. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and say, it has not happened to me, so I don't know, I don't care. What do you see in your space? Just how crazy is it, so that people understand what it is you're talking about, so that when you are a lifeguard going out there to meet the victims, what do you see and how bad is the situation?
I think, to me, as lifeguard Kenya, we deal with the child protection and gender-based violence. Now, men, they are lacking information because of ego. Hawako tayari kuenda kuripoti na kuongea wazi, kwa sababu unasapata mwanaume anaumia kwa nyumba, na anasema wacha tu nivumilie.
Anaumia kwa njia gani?
Mambo ya domestic violence inaanzia mambo ya pengine ni kitanda, pengine ni chakula, pengine ni fedha. So mwanaume akikuja akiambiwa nao, wewe mbona huja provide, kuna ile lugha ya kuongea wa mama wetu ama mabibi zetu wanazungumza wakati umekosa hata kuelewa. Pengine wewe ni mtu unakunywa, ukitoka umepewa na rafiki yako kapombe, ukirudi kwa nyumba unaulizwa, hii pesa umekunywa umetoa wapi? Ulikuwa na wanawake na wewe hujaleta pesa. So ulikuwa unakunywa na wanawake wako. Unaona already hiyo ni abuse kwa mwanaume. But hata ongea hata nyamaza. But wakati ataamka anasafanya kitendo. Na also pia kwa zile organization yenye inatetea haki ya kibinadamu, unapata wanatetea girl child than boy child. So unapata boy child ananga empowerment yenye amepewa kwa society, because hata akienda kwa polisi hakuna friendly space for boy child to report the problem yenye wanapitia. Because akienda kwa police station atajipata, wewe mwanaume umekuja kufanya nini? Tangu lini mwanamke amechapa mwanaume, you know? So huyo mwanaume anakuwa very shy kuongea mambo yenye inatendeka. So ndio mwanaume aongee, maybe atapiga ama ataua. Unaona sasa hapo amefika mwisho yenye ana kickback.
Okay.
Yes, so but I think it is ni lack awareness in the society. We need more awareness and peer friendly center yenye friendly with men, because men hawana center yenye wanasa report.
Unaona kama kuna center kama hiyo, unaona kama wanaume watakubali kuanza kuongea mambo ya ile inamsumbua ama kitu kama hiyo? Unaona kama watakubali?
Yes, watakubali kwa sababu at my center I have many of them.
Okay.
Yes. They are coming, we discuss.
Wanasema kwa nini wanachapa, ama kwa nini hiyo hasira imekuwa tu mingi sana, anaweza chapa mtu mpaka aumie?
Wana open up, wanasema maybe wanawake wetu kulingana na zile uchumi iko, wanasema wanawake wetu hawaelewi kwa sababu unasapata maybe mambo ni wamekosana kidogo.
Yes.
Siku hizi unapata wamama ama wasichana wanaenda kwa ofisi ya watoto. Ile mambo ingesuluhishwa nyumbani, wanakimbia kwa wapi? Ofisi ya watoto, kwamba huyu mwanaume anataka aprovide nini? Aprovide upkeep ya watoto. But unaona sasa huyu mwanaume anabaki ameumia, kuna mali atafanya nini? Ataenda, because pale itaangaliwa best interest of the child. Nani alitangulia kwa report? Ni mama alireport kwamba mwanaume achukue upkeep. Na pengine huyu mwanaume hana uwezo ya kuchunga jamii yake kulingana na kisheria. So unapata mambo yake sasa yeye amenyamaza nayo. Hawezi zungumza kwamba ninaumia. Pengine hata wanaume wengi, hata mambo ya kitanda, unapata mama wakati bwana haja provide kitu, mwanaume amevaa majins, amefunga zip, ile right yake ya kitanda hapati sawa. Hizo zote pia ni dhuluma kwa mwanaume.
Ni abuse.
Yes. So unapata mwanaume huyu anakaa na hizo mambo kwa roho.
Na hizo mambo kikanazo ndio zina, because we're talking about violence, kuna ile dhana kuwa pia kuna wanaume wanachapwa na wake zao. I don't know whether you've handled ripoti kama hizo.
Yes.
Where now kando na emotional abuse na hiyo matusi yote, then inafika ile kiwango sasa either bibi ana organize ama ni yeye mwenyewe anachapa mwanaume, na mwanaume hana mahali pa kwenda kuripoti. Umehandle cases kama hizo?
Ziko mingi sana kwa sababu unapata mwanaume amekuja, labda amechelewa, sana mambo ya mpira. Mtu anachelewa mpaka saa 6 usiku.
Na hiyo kitu Man Arsenal.
So amewacha jamii yake, pengine alisahau hata hakupeana pesa. So wakati anarudi kwa nyumba, things itakuwa the same vile aliacha. Vita itaanzia pale. Na unapata kuna wale wanawake wameenda gym. Wanainua mwanaume kuinua.
Okay.
Aitwa Weida.
Yes.
So anachapa
mwanaume mpaka anafukuza. Na at the same time ndiye anapiga nduru. So wakati anapiga nduru, majirani wanafikiria
mama amebeba mwanaume alafu yeye
ndiye anapiga nduru tena. So watu majirani wakitokea wanafikiria labda ni mwanaume anachapa, ni mwanamke anachapa. Kumbe
Mwanaume anachapwa.
Mwanaume anachapwa. Lakini wakati mwanaume amechapwa, yeye hawezi ongea because anaogopa pia uoga, aibu kujitokeza kwamba mimi nimechapwa na nani?
Bibi yangu.
Na bibi yangu. So pia anaenda ananyamaza.
Okay, so listening to what Dan is saying, Alberta, and I'm listening to some of the horrific things. You also need to see someone because I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Do you? I hope so. The anger that he's speaking of, and I think about that, those are where interventions, also like he said, that people can actually sit down and have a conversation about the thing that's bothering you inside. I fail to reconcile, however, with this violence that will beat somebody and abuse her and insert foreign objects and be so violent. That is not a conversation that can be had with somebody in terms of what has angered you or how can we. And if we are seeing more and more cases of this, then it seems to point to something fundamentally off in society that would mete out such violence on somebody else. I've seen the horrific pictures of this baby meted out on her by her father and her stepmother, and that's not a conversation that you can have with somebody and ask you, what made you angry to want to almost kill a 3-year-old child? What's going on there?
Okay, so let me start with this. I also see a therapist, and so do my colleagues. I mean, it's too much, it's too heavy, and you see them raw, very raw. So, and yes, caregivers also get a lot of secondary trauma, and there's also transference where you'd see your own baby and start imagining the same things happening to them. So to your question, you asked what's going on. I think that's what you asked. What's going on is a bitter society, if you ask me. What's going on, and talking to different people sometimes, and I must mention that 90% of the cases, according to the Kenya Demographic Health Survey and also to GVRC, is women and girls who are the alleged, who are the survivors of gender-based violence. And that's why a lot of focus is supporting the women and girls, not to mean that men and boys should not have inclusion. So I find that there's a lot of backlash. I'll start with that, especially this issue of women being economically empowered. So how our parents lived, our moms were not bringing equal, bread to the table or even more. And I find that men do not know how to deal with this woman who's not going to be home and doing the societal expectation, gender roles, and things like that. So that's one of the backlashes that I hear people talking about. What my peer here spoke about men is we are also, let's start also from socialization. And I think that's where the problem also is. When we tell the men that you should not cry, the young boys when they're growing up, when when the girls and boys, it's your children and they come home and one has to do homework, the other one has to do housework first and then the homework, the toys that we buy for them and all that. That's where, for me, all the problem starts. When I was listening to him speak, and I think one of the other things then that we miss is creating safe spaces even for men to discuss, when there's non-judgmental, when it's them, because it's them who need to have their own spaces and say, these are the needs that we have and this is how we can address them. And a lot of times when we say, oh, the response mechanisms are not friendly to men, are not friendly to boys, as much as I try and as much as my organization will try, and yes, I have male colleagues who will provide that support, where it's me and my space, I'll be biased. I'll be biased unconsciously so. So for me, that's what is missing. That mentorship, for men and all those things.
I can see that. I can see how we have compounded this in society where we say for some reason that it's okay for boys to want to grow up tough and then they shouldn't have to have a conversation. Be tough, don't cry, that kind of thing. I can see the danger that will pose for men later on in life. That unfortunately then we have what I have now most recently coined emotional dwarfism, that you're then not able to deal with that, and that what happens later is a physical manifestation of a historical suppression of issues. But I have a problem, Alberta, with this baby, this picture, we can't show it now because obviously it's too disturbing.
Yes.
I have a problem that violence has been met out on a young girl by a man and a woman.
Yes.
I have a problem. You said yourself, you've gone to see 5 girls. 100 showed up.
Yeah.
About the things that are being done to them. About this girl who's been raped and then raped again by not 1, 2, or 3 different people. There is something that is very wrong, whereby that kind of violence is either passing a message or displaying an element of control that we are not dealing with.
Exactly.
What is that?
I still need to put my finger on that. But I think one of the biggest problem is we tend to assume that it's out there. We tend to assume that we are not the perpetrators. We tend to assume that I am not suffering violence in my home, for example. So I would wake up, wear makeup, and show up here and continue. So we are not facing the issue. And there's a cycle of violence. By the time a woman is chopped off her hands, because those are the things we've seen. A man is chopped off his penis by the wife. You're burnt by oil by your partner. Those are the real cases. It's a whole cycle of violence. You're not able to sit. You're not able to have a conversation. And that's the problem I have. 2, we are not respecting each other as human beings. It's the simple things. It's the simple things that, and I'll keep making reference to when we were growing up. It's the simple things that I will be in a public transport, I'm a child, and I will stand up for this adult. It's the simple things that I will misbehave and my neighbor will beat me up. So there's no respect. There's no mutual respect. Then it tends to seem that it's a gender inequality. It's like a fight between genders and things like that. And it's not a respect for human rights. My biggest problem then again is we are not holding people accountable. We're letting people be. So out of the 3,464 I mentioned, you can imagine that GVRC only provided expert medical testimony in court for only about 575.
Just for purposes of clarification, GVRC is the Gender Violence Recovery Center.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. It's okay.
Yes, the Gender Violence Recovery Center of Nairobi Women's Hospital. So that's like what? That's like a sixth. So that shows you that we have normalized violence. That's where also the problem is. We are very okay not reporting. We are very okay. And there are many other reasons why people don't report. And even those expert medical testimonies that were done in court, how many reached conviction? And how long does it take? Am I making sense? So you can get away with it. Even us as a community, we are bystanders. We know that our neighbor is being beaten. There was a story in Kasarani where, that's how she screams every night. And this particular night she screamed and all that, and she was killed. And the neighbors were like, or someone is being beaten, you're just taking a photo. Or we know Alberta has a black guy in a family meeting and we're just like, we don't talk about it. So those are some of the reasons why the violence has kept on escalating and we don't want to talk about it. Because a lot of the perpetrators, actually about 68%, are known and mentioned by the survivor.
When you talk about these the perpetrators being known and mentioned. I remember there's a time we did something in Kawangware. I think it was last year. And from that meeting, there's this gentleman who asked for my number and later called me and told me, I'm going through something in my house. I'm no longer able to provide, and the person I'm living with is taking advantage. They're beating me up, because I'm in Nyamweya. All I want is to get out, because if does continue, I'm afraid my emotions will get better part of me and I might end up doing something really bad. All he wanted was 2,000 shillings to leave Nairobi, go back to his parents. And I provided that for him and he left. But this is a man who, in that surrounding, did not know where to go until when he attended that meeting that we had and he was able to speak up. But this is a situation where, Daniel, men now want a safe space to speak, but they don't know how to start. Because then again, for a man to just wake up and, especially coming from a background where men do not cry, you are the provider, you're not supposed to share what it is you're going through, always find a way of going through it. A bad way of looking at things. But how are we changing the conversation such that men are able to open up and be able to get the assistance that they do need?
First thing, ile kitu nasema ni kwamba wanaume tukicreate awareness wajue kwamba pia hawa kuna wale wasaidia kutoka kwa ile dhuluma yenye wanapitia. Itasaidia wanaume watatoka na wataenda kuripoti hizo cases, because unapata kama mwanaume wengi sana they trusted the police, but wakienda kwa polisi pia ile maswali wanaulizwa inawakera, sasa wanaondoka kwa polisi, sasa wanakosa pali pa kuenda. But kama tunasapata those centers, friendly centers for them, then we create awareness, tuwaeleze vile watareport na nani atareport, watatoka, watasaidika. I think hiyo itasaidia, because wanaume wengi wanaingia kwa drugs, wanaingia addicted kwa pombe, wanaingia hata kufanya vitu zingine yenye haifai kwa sababu ya stress yenye wanapitia kwa manyumba. So at least ukiweka safe space for them, they can come and report those cases. Then we can use even our referral pathway to help them. Yes.
But you know, a lot of these cases, the first point of contact is the justice system before even going to get help.
Yeah.
Whether it's a case, it's a woman, the first point is you want to report. And I think there's something really broken in our society. I remember last year, there was a time I was at, I'll not mention the name of this police station. I was going to see these OCS, and we were having a conversation with him. Then I happened to stand where the reporting desk. So I was waiting for him to finish something I was doing. So nimesimama tu hivi kwa corridor namgoja. Then a man walked in. His left ear, this whole part, haikukua, he's bleeding to his shoulder, he's shot. So akakuja, so I was curious, what case is this? Akaanza kureport. Akasema ni bibi yake amemuuma sikio. A young man. So kulikuwa na, there were 4 police officers. 3 were men, 1 was a lady behind the bars. So, and they were using the digital system. So they were they had this tablet, they had to, type key in. And it took a lot. The entire time I was there was around 25 minutes. They were not past the first paragraph. And the reason is, the first askari alimuuliza, wewe nini nimekuleta hapa? Ati nimekuja kuripoti kesi, unaona vile amenifanya. Nani amefanya? Bibi yangu ameniuma masikio. The other officer akaanza kumuuliza, wewe sasa bibi yako alifika aje kwa hiyo masikio kauma hivyo? So the man ended up being victimized. The other one was laughing. Anasema sasa wewe, hii siku pia kuna wanaume wanapigwa na mabibi zao. Si ungetoka hiyo nyumba utafute bibi ingine, wasichana wamejaa huko nje. And I'm there listening. Yeah. I had a cape, they didn't know it was me standing there. I'm just listening to how this man is being vilified and he's reporting a case and he's bleeding. So there's no first aid first. They stop the bleeding because it's still fresh. The wound is still fresh. A piece of the ear, imetolewa kabisa. So the lady akaanza kumuuliza, so hiyo masikio, hiyo ingine imeenda wapi? Exhibit imeenda wapi? Imagine, they are making fun of this young man. Exhibit imeenda wapi? The man was so disoriented and they have not started. By the time I was leaving, I later asked the OCS what I had witnessed. Of course, he took some action, but it paints the picture of, and this is not just men, even women. We had a case here of a young girl who was abused through so many families. And when she was going to report, she's actually being questioned. Are you sure wanaume they raped you ama wewe ndio ulijipeana? You know? So my question is, as much as we're coming up with these centers, and a lot of these centers, I don't know, I stand to be corrected, they are like recovery centers where you're going to get help. But our justice system, the first point of contact where you're reporting an abuse or violence, whether it's a man, and in the case of the example I've given, a man, or in other cases, women, how are we socializing, for example, police officers, in understanding the sensitivities around, and mwanaume, as he's giving this testimony, there are others who are coming to report cases. Yes. There are 2 people being arrested, they are coming, so all of us are listening to this man telling the story, vile bibi yake amemuuma masikio. Alberta, does it, at what point do we start having a deeper conversation around how we're even reporting these cases? Because we see very, very few prosecutions around gender-based violence cases.
Well, I agree with you. And
I know it's heavy.
Yeah, let me even make it worse. Again, of the 3,464 cases we saw that year, you won't believe that 2,593 were actually referred by the police to us. But remember, so that's like a big chunk,
Yeah.
But remember, the ones that went now to the access to justice system, now the ones that it's not even getting into the system, the ones we provided out of those expert medical testimony in court are only about 575. So that tells a lot from what you're saying. Actually, it's
Only
what you're
500.
saying. Only 575. In the Sasa to conviction to be way less. Yeah. So just to confirm what you're saying, so there's that issue of victim blaming, and not just from the police, actually even from our own families and our own spaces. Yes, because this police and ourselves here and everyone else, we're from that same home and those same societies. So it's a whole community mindset and awareness, that needs to be created and sensitization. That man was very bold. I don't think he'll even come back to follow up on that case. First, everything there was wrong. From he's supposed to have been referred to a hospital first for medical treatment. Then all those other writings later. Even him sharing what his experience should not have been in public like that. Should have been in a private space. So ametoka hapo, kila mtu anamcheka, na even you're not supposed to have known what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to even create a safe space for him to be able to say. The other reason why we are having, when you're talking about the problem with access to justice, there's a lot of burden of proof on the victim. So amekuja amekatwa masikio, but you're asking where the other piece is. How will I start looking for another piece to prove that, and that's why a lot of people don't follow through. And that's the problem. Again, the cost of the legal proceedings, the cost of even going for service from one place to another. So when do we need to start these serious conversations like yesterday? I'd say in all spaces. So the police, for example, this year, GVC trained and sensitized on reporting investigation to about 360 police officers from 21 counties. But that's us. Everyone needs to take the forefront from their own space, so to speak. So if it's training curriculums within the police force, if it's sensitizing them, there should be no excuse. The police should be the first place that we all run to for safety, so to speak. So what human rights organization are pushing for in Kenya is actually a unit for gender-based violence. Yesterday, someone sent me something on TikTok about a lady who had been, I don't know if you saw it, and she was talking about how difficult it was to get someone arrested. She had been beaten the whole night, and a similar situation that you're talking about. And she said, you know what? I was asked to provide 3,000 to get that person arrested. And she was like, where do I even get 3,000? I need to look for money for treatment and things like that. So for me, that's the problem. We need to have, the same way we have units for what? If a bank is robbed in less than 2 minutes, I guess cops will be there. But what if a man is raped? It's called raped in law. What if a man is beaten? What if a woman is beaten, a child? You have to figure it out. And that's where the problem is, taking the seriousness of it. If it's those conversations, it's in every space, whether it's the teachers, whether it's us as parents, so for me, if you'd ask me, it's actually a national disaster. Everyone should be talking about it, and I'm glad, yes, the president did set up the technical working group on gender-based violence, including femicide. So seeing also the end to it and the interventions around it.
But are we though? This is the thing. Are we, as a result of that task force, actually seeing something being done?
So
if what we understand is that there were counties where there was a tent set up and then people came and, had a meeting or two or whatever is happening. But the devastation, and I think maybe we don't realize when we set up these task forces, please help us understand, we don't realize the devastation that an act on a night has on the rest of a life of an individual, or a day.
Yes.
That life essentially is altered forever and permanently because of that thing.
Exactly.
So we trivialize it and say, well, let's put up a tent and have some people come and sit around and talk about it. But these are lives that are being affected. And then we wonder why we have people operating the way they do in society later. We are diseased. Do we understand when we set up these task forces, when we slap a lot of NGOs speak around it, when we say, okay, yes, well, we've set up a committee and a task force, that's just all we've done. We've not dealt with the problem.
I agree. So this task force is yet to present the report to the president, and hopefully when they do, the actions after we'll all take our responsibility and take action for it. And for me, that's just, I don't know what to say, but I'm just thinking, if we just saw the other person as a human being, we would not even have gender-based violence, so to speak. And to be able to end this, it has to be everyone. We have to be responsive and we have to be sensitive. Yeah, we really have to be sensitive, and we need to also understand what is gender-based violence. The other problem then has been that this violence happens in our spaces, but in some communities and even ourselves, we don't realize that we're being violated.
Do you think that it happens? Because the things that you talk about, the things that you see, the cases that come to you, Dan, the cases that come to you, Alberto, the ones that you go to see, they seem to have become worse, they become worse, they've become more violent, even more daring in terms of how far you can push the envelope. What can you actually do to this individual? And do you think they get worse or more serious because really nothing is done about them?
That's exactly what I think. The other lady who was killed in Kitale, where the man alidungwa makisu kwa uso, and the man was like, hakuna pali utanipeleka, right after that. That's my problem. We have to hold people to account. And the other day, someone was telling me, some lady were having a conversation, was telling me, you know what, put them in the public square, that town square. Come to hapo kata shingo. Trust me, it will stop.
Okari will agree with you.
Yeah.
I support that
because
100%.
why are we sitting here discussing this?
Yeah.
But Alberta, and this is for you and also for Daniel here. Is it that it's just a follow-up to what Ndo was just asked? And sometimes I wonder, the more you interact with people around the social spaces and the stories and the images and the video clips that you keep seeing of violence, is it a case of there's an increase of violence and the numbers are going up, or this thing has always been there, it's only that we are now reporting it more and more every day? I'll start with you, Bonadan.
I think social media imetusaidia at least kujua mambo mengi, kwa sababu mbeleni hatukuwa tunaelewa mambo mengi kulingana vile zinafanyika. But another thing pia, kuna sehemu nyingi sana Kenya hawajakuwa access kwa social media. So unreported cases bado ni mingi sana. And also unapata ndio Kenya yenye unaona mwenzako anauliwa na unachukua video. Yani badala usaidie huyo mtu, wewe unachukua video. So hiyo video umemsaidia, itasaidia aje na already amekufa. So unaona kitu kama hiyo. So at least pia hata kama tunachukua video, angalia maslahi ya huyo mtu mwenye anapigwa vipi. Unafurahia wakati unachukua video, ama what you want to do with this video after the death of this person. So pia also tungependa create awareness, because tukicreate awareness watu wataelewa jinsi ya kuripoti hizi maneno.
Watu wanaelewa hiyo asira ukunayo kwa roho. Watu wanaelewa kama hiyo asira inaweza leta kitu mbaya mbeleni ukiitumia vibaya. Watu wanaelewa hiyo kweli, ama wanasema ni asira tu itapita?
No.
Do they understand the connection between
watu waelewi. Unajua, I think kwa wanawake asira yao ni nyepesi kujua, lakini kwa mwanaume kitambi toke, at least atakuwa amefanya action something. Naona. But unaona, for example, nowadays unapata kitambo, unapata wamama ndio walikuwa natoroka manyumba, lakini siku hizi unapata mwanaume anatoka na sati yake moja, ameenda. Itakuja kujulikana after 1 to 2 months kwamba mwanaume na alitoka ni kama anaenda kazi na ameenda na hiyo, na ameenda popote.
But
na ameacha familia yake hivyo hivyo tu.
Daniel, I hear where you're coming from, but then again, one would argue that because we've seen such things happen before. I'll give you an example of the case that we saw in Mombasa of that gentleman who was being sodomized in the open and cameras all over the place, and nothing up to date. One would say nothing really happened, and you find others would pick up on these and say, like Ndu was saying, I will do it. There will hakuna mahali utanipeleka. Kama ni polisi, I know someone in the police. So if you look at the way these stories these matters are being handled in terms of prosecutions, out of 3,000, talking about 500 that have ended up in court, but even then, how many have gone all the way? We're talking about less than 100. So how is this then making the situation worse in terms of perpetrators knowing at the end of the day, nothing will be done? Albert?
So we all have to up our game. We all have, and for me, access to justice is not the problem. It's not just at the courts. It starts also with the community. Because the community also would be where you're going to report you're messing with the family name, and things like that. For that community to also know that I can support this person, and they need to report, for example, within 72 hours for us to be able to get the evidence. And even those places, for us to know where is it that we are reporting to. The awareness he was talking about. Are there numbers I can call? Are there people who can come and rescue me? I don't need to shower, for example, when I'm raped. And when I go to that health facility, they also know how to collect the evidence and store, and the chain of custody and passing the same to for example, the police. Then at the police, not to get the treatment that Dennis was talking about, that survivors are getting. And then from there also how the investigations are done. A lot of cases also thrown out because of that investigation. So for example, forensic labs in Kenya, like what? I think 2 or 3 government ones, and the backlog is way back. When you take your sample, we have to wait for many more because reagent akuna and things like that. So then there's also a problem with that, So it's the whole, and even when you report as a survivor, okay, fine, you've gotten treated. So where do you go to? Is there a safe house? Is that community, the cost of it, the cost of reporting, the cost of moving from one service point to another? That's where most of them will go for medical treatment, and that's it. And that's why, again, they're not going to go and report emotional abuse, for example. They'll report when it's severe cases, the ones Ndu is talking about. So all these things contribute to this access to justice. The court has also tried, let's agree, that they've set up 14 specialized GBV courts across the country. And I know they have that access to justice week where they fast track the cases. So again, now going back also and taking your question to what Okari was asking about, whether is the reporting more and is it more severe and things like that. So a gap that we have is also on research. Research and really interrogating these questions. So that's a gap in the country, including data management, having a central depository for data and being able to analyze that, so that then you can say these ones that are being reported at GVRC and the ones are reported at the police crime report, for example, is it double counting? And those who go to the shelter, is this same person able to access all these services, and why do they drop off? So I'll shock you that the statistics we have as GVRC is way higher than the National Police Crime Report.
Wow.
So that's also another gap in the country. So when you ask, is it underreporting? Is it that more cases are up? We don't know. Maybe now, because of this awareness that continues to happen, people are more aware, and I know this is violence and this is where I can go report. The question is, are the response mechanism also friendly and responsive? So that then I can keep responding. And that's why you're talking about, you spoke of a case that happened and nothing has happened so far, the Mombasa case. So it was on social media. We were quotes and using a bad word, excited about it and made a fuss about it. But what happened after that? What really happened? The girl I gave an example who was gang raped, left hospital, gang raped again, and died. So someone is trying to show you, what? I'm back.
Still do again and let me ask this question about restoration very quickly, and I'll start with you, Dan. Tutazungumza about justice for survivors. How do we also rehabilitate the offenders? Because this is case by case. There are those cases you look at, unasema mwanaume ametoka kwa nyumba, ako na hasira, amerudi jioni, bibi ameongea hivi, hukuleta pesa, hukufanya hivi, watoto hukufanya hivi. Then from hiyo hasira, he decides to beat the wife, for example. And maybe it's not something amekuwa akifanya previously. But how do we then make sure that huyu mwanamke amepata justice, but also this man is rehabilitated, there is restoration. How do we do that?
I think hapo ndio unaona koti zetu za Kenya ilileta mambo ya mediation and reconciliation. After I think mtu maybe kuna kifungo ya nje kulingana na ile kitendo amefanya, ama kuna kifungo ya ndani. Pengine akitoka pale ndani, I feel the system inafaa ikuwe kwamba akifika pale iwekwe something like, because bado ni watoto, bado ni baba ya wale watoto. As much as kulikuwa ABCD, bado kuna watoto pale wanamuhitaji. So I think inafaa iwekwe a place where kuna mali wanasakua wafanye reconciliation ama mediation ili warudiane pamoja wale watoto wao.
Well, if anything, this conversation shows us is that there is a lot of work to do, and that there are fundamental fact-finding that needs to happen. It's a tough one to have to deal with, but it's in our society. I mean, the work that you both do is thankless to an extent, but necessary, isn't it? And this is the society that we live in, but we need to make it better. We can. Daniel Odongo is the founder at Lifeguard Kenya. Alberto Wabua is the executive director of the Gender Violence Recovery Center. Thank you both for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Santisana at 9:01. Good morning.
Latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. A teacher in Kilifi County has been arrested after a 15-year-old pupil died days after she was allegedly assaulted during corporal punishment at Ngongoni Primary School in Kilifi South. The incident is said to have occurred on Friday, September 19th, during the final lesson before games. According to the police reports, the teacher, Ian Tembo, instructed grade 8 pupils to kneel before punishing them. Some were caned while others were hit on the head. Among those punished was Ernestine Zinza. She went home after school but began complaining of severe headaches the following day. Her condition worsened over the weekend and she was rushed to Kilifi County Hospital for treatment. Despite efforts by doctors, she died on September 25th. The girl's family reported the matter to authorities 2 days after her death, leading to investigations by the DCI. More than 2,000 residents of Omeri, Bondeni, Ojami and Milimani streets in Busia town fear a typhoid and cholera outbreak could affect them after a sewage pipe burst and the water was diverted into the river, which they use for domestic purposes. Led by Henry Odioni, they claim that the stench of the sewage has also remained a daily nuisance.
Sasa tabu yenye tuko naye sana, kuna sewage inatoka bondeni, takataka kutoka bondeni hiyo huko Mlimani pale yote inakuja kwa hii mto. Na mto hii sasa sisi hapa tunaumia. Kila wakati magonjwa, typhoid, malaria na tuna pesa.
Hapa wakaji wa bondeni tuko na shida kubwa sana. Ukitazama hapa juu, kutoka hapa mali tuko ni 500 meters kwenda ofisi ya governor, county assembly, lakini takataka sewage yote inaingia ndani ya hii mto hii. Na wamama, watoto wanahangaika, wanakunywa maji yenye mchanganyika na sewage.
Na hiyo sewage wafunge kabisa. Imetusumbua karibu miaka kila mwaka. Tuseme sasa saa hizi ni miaka kama 10, almost 10 years.
And they also claim that their efforts to reach out to Busia County government officials, especially the Water and Environment Department, to find a solution have hit a snarl, further calling on Health Cabinet Secretary Aidan Nwale and his environment counterpart Deborah Mulongo to intervene in the matter.
Watoto wadogo mkipata hata ukienda kwa nyumba ya mtu, watoto wanalia tu. Mtoto analia, anashika tumbo. Sio ni typhoid. Ukienda kwa hospitali, typhoid. Ukienda hospitali, typhoid.
Tukitazama Busia hatujaipata ugatuzi. Kama hapa ni 500 meters kwenda ofisi ya governor na tunaishi kama msituni. Hii ni Busia jamani.
Tunataka minister wa environment akuje tu mwenyewe aone mambo yenye naendelea hapa. Kwa sababu wakikaa mbali huko hawajui kijijini hapa namna tunaumia. Achukue tu nafasi akuje hapa aone mwenyewe, ndio ajue tunalalamikia nini. Sababu ambao tunataka minister wa environment akuje mwenyewe kuona. Tumejaribu, tumeongea na county, hata tumejaribu tukaleta hao kwa site wakaona. Karibu miaka 3 sasa hii hakuna hatua imefanyika.
Now, the Kisumu County government has entered into an MOU with the United Nations Development Programme to increase the number of affordable housing units in the county. Under the partnership, UN Habitat will build approximately 1,000 houses in Kisumu County at a cost of 2.7 billion shillings, a move that Governor Anyang' Nyong'o said aims to ensure that residents of the county who are struggling with the challenge of homelessness are helped.
UN Habitat is doing an extremely important function in the mission of the United Nations Organization, especially in this area of housing. As you know, in Kisumu, we also have a big program for housing. Housing for all sectors of society. Those who can afford good houses, we give them space to build those houses and sell them. Those who are poor and cannot afford to build their own homes, we do build those houses and either rent it to them or give them the opportunity to buy and settle in there. Now this new partnership for housing development that we have here focuses on that section of society. So we do take into account these other needs of people, not just housing, but access to the social amenities that they need.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leo Baga, and remember to continue enjoying the EPL matches across our radio stations. That is Perur, Radio Maisha, and right here on SpiceFM.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away people with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Feel the pure, unfiltered power of football on Star Times. Precision, athleticism, football as it's meant to be. That's the Bundesliga experience. Electrifying performances from Germany's finest. Feel the passion, artistry, and strength. The power of our football. La Liga brings you flair and creativity of Spanish football. The rising stars of the Saudi Pro League. The high-stakes energy of the Saudi Super Cup. And the unpredictable thrills of the Carabao Cup. Your screen is the center of the global game. Renew your subscription today at only 329 shillings for Nyota Bouquet on the aerial decoder, or 549 shillings for Nova Bouquet on the dish decoder. This isn't just football, it's passion, drama, glory. Download the Star Times app to never miss a match, even when you're on the move. Star Times, enjoy digital life.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Coming in from a heavy one at 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is the Situation Room, and our conversations continue this morning when we look at some of these issues necessary for us to talk about whether we are comfortable or not. We'll comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. So we're talking here. And as we get into it, we are continuing with the conversation this hour. And shrinking space for right defenders. The Kenya National Commission of Human Rights is represented this morning by the Assistant Director, Samson Omondi, and he joins us in the Situation Room this morning. But Omondi, good morning.
Good morning, Drew.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, just come from a difficult conversation this last hour. We were talking about realities in our society in terms of what really is happening. And then for us to have this conversation, absolutely necessary. So, you know what, we're rolling with the punches, but let's see how we go through this hour. That's a long-winded way of saying I'm doing okay. And good to see you and have you in the room this morning.
Good to see you too.
When we're talking about, some of these things today. So thank you for coming. Dennis is going to welcome you with today's proverb. He'll tell you where it's from. We'd love to hear your interpretation of the same.
Yeah, our proverb today comes from the Comoros Island, and it's a beautiful country that borders Madagascar, Mozambique, and the Indian Ocean. Let's talk about their culture now. Their culture is influenced mostly by Swahili, Arabic, and the Malagasy tradition, by the fact that they are neighbors to Madagascar. And the traditional dress includes kudzu for men and shira for the women. Let's go to the proverb. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. The tree with deep roots fears no wind. How would you interpret that?
The tree with deep wounds.
The tree with deep roots.
Yes. Fears no wind. Wow, what is my interpretation? I'll look at the tree as a person. And I would look at the roots as what you have in terms of expertise and what you do best in your field of that you work in. So for me, my interpretation will be that a person that has good expertise and does it well, does not fear anything. He's able to deliver on it without fear, without intimidation, without harassment, because his roots are in and you cannot pull him out in any other way. So that will be my interpretation. So I would look at it from a professional point of view. I think one, but also in terms of what you just need to do best. And the need to ensure that as you deliver on your what you are mandated to do, please give it your best.
Okay.
You'll not be swept away by the wind. So call for confidence, call for professionalism, and all those things.
One would say the professional side has really professionalized this morning, Good interpretation.
Well, all right then. And even as we get into this conversation, there seems to be a shrinking space in terms of what human rights defenders can actually do. Is there one?
Yeah, I think there is one.
A shrinking space.
The space is shrinking.
Okay.
I think for defenders, but I think the starting point would be to ask ourselves, so who are defenders? And defenders is any person group. I mean, you can act as an individual, you can act as group to defend, promote, realize, enhance, promotion, and protection of human rights. So by that definition, you find that it is wide and it encompasses any person doing anything, so including journalists. So a journalist is a human rights defender. A trade unionist is a human rights defender. A blogger is a human rights defender. A teacher is a human rights defender. And of course, institutions that work in this area. So we have a couple of NGOs, CBOs, grassroots-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and all those. But I think at the top level is that when it comes to promotion and protection of human rights, the state has a primary responsibility in ensuring that this is done. And therefore, the state also has the primary responsibility in terms of ensuring that the space under which these defenders operate is open and is free. I think at the Commission, we will confidently say that the environment under which defenders are operating, I think, has shrunk over time. And I mean, you could give a couple of examples that defenders face intimidation, they face harassment, they face arbitrary arrest, they face extrajudicial execution, enforced disappearances, and all those. So those in one way or the other, I mean, they are making the space to shrink because people fear to do their work that they should be doing when it comes to promotion and protection of human rights.
Samson, you see, right now, even as we speak, there's just the report that we received that Bob Njeri has been picked up in Uganda. And one would look at this space that continues to shrink, and one would argue that it's being perpetrated by the political class, and asks the question, why is the political class seemingly so afraid of rights defenders? Is it one because they have something to hide, because the rights defenders expose them?
I think one of the things that rights defenders do is they investigate, they monitor, they expose, they scrutinize. And I think increasingly one of the things we have seen is that states fear scrutiny. States fear exposure. So the scrutiny could be in form of corruption. What could be exposed could be corruption. It could be bad governance. It could be those things that are done which ideally the state should not do. And I think what we are seeing, I think not just in Kenya, but even what happened, we saw it. We've seen it in Uganda yesterday. I mean, we remember the case of Boniface and the colleague that were in Tanzania. So I think the fear is the state engages in a lot of human rights violations, for lack of a better term. So it's violation that's related to various rights. So it could be rights to health, rights to education, of course, civic space where we operate on a daily basis. And any person that comes to speak to this in terms of sharing information with the public out there and letting people know is always targeted. So I think for us, the fear is the state fears scrutiny. The state fears accountability, and the state fears all those things. So for me, for us, I think as an institution, that is where the problem is. Yes.
Okay, so I've always wondered, and maybe you can help us here. The organization of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, is it fulfilling? Is it? I know you're already smiling because I think you know where I'm going with this. It is a commission that is appointed under the auspices of the government of Kenya.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Right? So under government, the commission essentially has been established to report excesses to government by possibly government.
Absolutely.
Okay. You see where I might be asking a question?
Yes.
Okay. Answer the question without me asking it.
So let me answer the question without you asking. The commission is established on Article 59 of the Constitution.
Right.
It establishes the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. But there are three institutions in that article. So we have the Commission on Administrative Justice, CAJ, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and National Gender and Equality Commission. All with the mandate of promoting and protecting human rights. I think the commission prior to establishment as a constitutional commission is that we were first established as a statutory institution, established through an act of parliament. Now, with the coming in of the constitution, then we got more powers because now we are within the constitution. But now, what is our grounding? Our grounding is that we are established in accordance with what we call Paris Principles. Now, Paris Principles calls on states to establish national human rights institutions, and it provides for a framework and guidelines that those institutions need to have. Number one is that those institutions should be independent. And independence is on different levels. Independence in terms of finances, independence in terms of operations, independence in terms of autonomy. It also calls for government that has established this institution, they need to have operational duties where they are able to carry out mandates such as investigation, capacity building, research, reporting on international obligations, and all that. So I think one of the things that the Paris Principles take into consideration is that they understand that states are human rights violators, but also states require their own institutions to advise them in terms of what they do. So it's a very difficult situation where you are a creation of the government, you are a creation of the state through the constitution, and it's expected that you also advise that state, of course, through also scrutinizing it. And in a couple of instances, is at times do not agree on a couple of things. But then that has not stopped, I think, the commission from doing its work. So the commission, in terms of the mandate, is we have act as watchdog, one, and advisory. So advisory is fairly easy. I mean, you'll say you want this to be done. It will be done or it will not be done. But now when it comes to dogging, and you know what a dog does. A dog makes noise. And a dog makes things very uncomfortable. So I think that's what the commission does as a creation of the constitution, but also in line with the what we call the Paris Principles that establishes national human rights institutions across the world.
Okay. So sometimes dogs bark.
Yes.
And then they don't bite. Other times, dogs bark, and then they also do bite, so that the chances of you returning to the close vicinity of that dog in the future then are reduced. I think today is going to be the day when I say things without asking questions, because you can see where I'm going again.
I know where you're going.
So,
yes,
it's you put the dog to guard you.
Yes.
And also yourself from any kind of harm. But if you see harm, you also want to say, well, you can either ignore the dog or you can say, okay, well, don't bark at that one. That one, don't bark at that one, will ignore you. Do you find that the commission finds itself in that situation every now and then?
I think the commission finds itself...
Speaking specifically about Kenya.
Yeah, I think the commission at times finds itself in those situations where you do a lot of barking, but you see very little action taking place.
Okay.
But we also find ourselves in a situation where we do a lot of backing and we do a lot of action taking place. And I think if you look at the work that we do, I mean, we do work around elections, we do work around security sector reforms, we do work around judicial reforms, we do work on economic, social, cultural rights, and all that. So there are soft aspects to that work that are fairly easy. I mean, like when it comes to developing a policy, I'll give you an example that we've worked on developing a national action policy on business and human rights. And what we are calling on the state to do is that the state should respect, and of course businesses, respect rights and promote them as they do their work. We've worked closely with the National Police Service to develop the various laws. We have the National Police Service Act, Independent Policing Oversight Authority Act, National Police Service Commission Act, and all those. So as soft part of that work is taking place, I mean, the state has a lot of acceptance to it. And of course, other institutions that we work with. Now, the difficult part, now, at that point when we back, there's no problem. The difficult point when we back and we find ourselves in a fix is when a violation has been done. And therefore, you want to seek accountability. So the greatest challenge is soft advocacy does not have a problem. The greatest problem is now when it comes to seeking accountability, particularly for human rights violation. I mean, the pace is fairly slow. I think the pace is fairly annoyingly slow at times. But I think one of the things that I think as a commission we get solace in is that there will always be action at some point. It might delay, it might take time, but at some point you will see action taking place. And we also take solace in the fact that haki haiozi.
You know, Samson, we've talked about a dog that barks and bites, a dog that barks and leaves it there. But then again, there's a dog that is just a pet. And where am I headed with this? At a point where, because you've been barking a lot, I will wake up today and say, I would slash your budget to make it difficult for you to investigate, for you to expose and do all these things. And one would say, at the point when you see budgeting allocation perhaps has been increased, is because this dog has become a pet and they need some dog food for them to continue playing our ball. And this is a situation that we've seen in the country before. You talk about the judiciary system, the judiciary, we will revisit. And what revisiting meant? Slashing of budget allocations. So in terms of the government that has put you in place and the laws that put you there, just how are we implementing it? Are we a dog that bites or are we a pet?
No, I think I can confidently say that the commission has not become a pet. Of course, one of the challenges we've faced over time, and I think is a challenge that applies to all national human rights institutions across the world, the issue of underfunding. I think the commission, amongst all state institutions, is one of those that is least funded. And I mean for obvious reasons. We fund you least, you'll not be able to do investigation, you'll not be able to do capacity building, you'll not be able to engage, you'll not be able to do international obligations reporting and all that. But, I mean, we've had a few development partners that support us in one way or the other. So from the state, of course, we get money, but it's money that has never been enough, I mean, over the period. But I can confidently say that it's never reduced the commission to a pet. The commission remains a dog, and a dog that barks and also bites.
Could you explain?
But I think one of the things that I think is also important to note is that as an institution that plays an advisory role, our work is really to push recommendation to other agencies. Like a good example, if you do investigation, and for us we do human rights investigation, the file will eventually be forwarded to ODPP for prosecution. So it's the work of the ODPP to do the prosecution. So we will be in the background, of course, doing advocacy and pushing all this to be done. So in terms of the expectation is that our cooperation with other state agencies needs to be very good. But I think one of the challenges we've also faced over time is the issue of non-cooperation from state agencies, particularly those that we work with from time to time.
Do you think that compensation for victims is something that should be handled by government, especially victims in a conflict situation, in a protest situation? From a human rights perspective, should government handle that? Because many rights defenders have been demanding for that. And when we talk about the shrinking space, that conversation seems to be going and circling the drain. Do you think governments should compensate individuals, families who've lost their loved ones as a result of such?
No, I think, and I began by saying that the government is the primary duty bearer when it comes to promotion and protection of human rights. So as a primary duty bearer, it's duty bound to ensure that rights are upheld, and of course, right to life being amongst them. I I think what we've seen is we've seen deaths arising from government actions.
Yeah.
Of course, actions or acts of omission and commission committed by state agents. And I think by state agents, I mean the National Police Service. I think let me just take you back a bit, that before we speak about the current compensation that we are having, is that we also had another process in this country called the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation process, which collected over 40,000 statements and did its work for 3 years and submitted a report to the president for action. I think as we speak today, that report has never been implemented. So I would want to look at compensation from the point of reparations. Now, when you speak about reparations, we are speaking about a host of things. Number one, we are speaking about acknowledgement by the state, that the state would acknowledge that we did wrong by, say, killing people. We did wrong by causing lifelong injuries. We did wrong by destroying livelihoods. We did wrong by... So the first thing is acknowledgement.
Yeah, okay.
So I think the question we need to ask ourselves is, has the state acknowledged? I think that is one. Number two, is the government the right one to do this? I think the answer is yes, because it's the government that has violated the rights. It is the government which is a duty bearer. It's the government that should take care of its people. But now the bigger question is, what is the framework under which this should be done? So the framework, I think we could look at the framework in terms of laws and policies, framework in terms of period, framework in terms of profiling, framework in terms of expertise. And I think when we speak about particularly the compensation that we are currently speaking of, which of course will be for human rights defenders as well as other members of the public, I think there are a lot of questions that have been canvassed over it. Of course, the issue of a period, I've told you, Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission did its work in 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay? And by the time they were finishing, they had done public hearings across the country, had 40,000 statements that were submitted. Now, we know the current team, the committee, was given 120 days. So you ask yourself, so what would happen in the 120 days? Would they have made the framework that is going to guide this? So for me, number one is the issue of timing. I think number two, we know, I think as a country, what happens when we get to conversations about compensation. And Kenyans, you know, when we had the post-election violence of 2007, 2008, we had some compensation that were done after that. The IDPs, the so-called internally displaced persons. And we saw how that process was bungled by a lot of claims of people that were either not there and that had not suffered any harm and all that. So the question on what is the process that is going to be handled. I think number three is the question of profiling. So how are you going to profile these people? So who is it that's going to be entitled? Because I think when we reduce this to just victims of police brutality, I think we make it so narrow. For me, and I think for the Commission, the conversation is about expanding this to all victims of human rights violations that have been perpetrated by the state. Because it's not just demonstrations.
But Samson,
Yes,
I have two questions. But let me start with the first one. Still in line with what has been asked. So there's something called the principle of reparation.
Yes.
As it has worked in other countries. In this instance, the reference is to protest victims. We're not going past 5 years, 10 years. This is the last 2 years. We're looking at just this example alone, and whether it is then right for government to lead the way and say, okay, you know what, you're going to compensate. Now, if I go back to the principle, and the reason why you've raised all these different points, and we're all conversing around how credible, how authentic is the government in saying, look, we are willing to compensate. If we follow the principle of reparation, first, there is acknowledgement, which you rightly said. Yes. There needs to be acknowledgement. In this case, there's no acknowledgement yet. Number two is an apology. We still don't have an apology. Number 3 is where we have then rehabilitation and guarantees of non-repetition. We don't have any of this. So in principle, what you're saying, the principles of reparations have not been followed clearly. And what then this looks like to a lot of people, and that's what your view then will be clear on this, is are we treating this reparation conversation that the government is willing to pay victims of the protests as a financial payout? Or are we really looking at this holistically? Because if we go back to the TJRC, the report that you earlier mentioned, we know it was handed to the president and everything that was tabled there and all that, but we know what happened to the reports. It was not implemented. So we have a history of not abiding by the rules of engagement when it refers to human rights.
No, absolutely, Dennis, and I agree with you. I think you put it so well. The three, of course, non-repetition, acknowledgement, and apology. I think when you look at it from outside, I think one of the things that there's a subtle acceptance that we were engaged by going to form this. There's a subtle acceptance at the back. I think what is the president and possibly his team are avoiding is coming out and saying, we did this.
And why? Why are they avoiding that?
I mean, how would I describe it, Dennis? How would I describe it? I think I would, for me, I would look at it in the context of just evading accountability. Because I think that's where we are. Yes. You don't want to acknowledge, you don't want to accept, you don't want to give apology, but you're also not guaranteeing that this is the last time that is happening, which I think is the most important thing. Because, I mean, defenders and, of course, as other Kenyans would continue from time to express themselves on public assembly, on demonstrations. And what we need, I think the assurance that we need is that when this were to happen again, we are having 2027 general elections coming, and we know what happens during 2027 during elections. So I think what we need, the guarantee that we need, is there will be non-repetition of killings, there will be non-repetition of enforced disappearances, there will be non-repetition of arbitrary detention and all that. But as we speak, I think we don't have those. So, and as others have said, it's a process, looks good but not very good.
So Samson, one would ask, if there is all the tenets when it comes to matters to do with compensation, if all these have not been followed, why engage in a process that the state might as well just decide to do the very same thing it has done today? What's the need of it? Because one would look at the state in terms of the human rights. You look at rights defenders and the government, and one would argue that they complement each other because they are supposed to protect human rights. But the government is not doing that. So here we're talking about compensation, but one party has not acknowledged we've done wrong. So why engage in a process that we know will still do the same thing at the end of the day?
I think it's a process, how would I describe it? It's a process that I think, for lack of a better term, would not yield the intended results. Because the intended result is an accountable. Because I think for us that the Commission will say, the focus is that we need to ensure there is accountability for human rights violations. Of course, compensation is good. But as you compensate, I know the person who pulled the trigger. I know the person who kidnapped me. I know the person who did this and that. I can still see that person, or I've not seen people being pulled through a court process to answer to some of these violations. So I think we need to move from the conversation about compensation on one hand and focus more on seeking accountability and ensuring that really we do have a non-repetition of this. Because even if we compensate, we acknowledge, we do all this, and we do not guarantee that non-repetition will happen, then we will be back to the same cycle, maybe sooner than later. And God forbid, if we have another demonstration, say in the next 2 months, we might have maybe people dead, others lost part part of their bodies. And I don't know whether we'll now create a new framework for compensating those, because then we'll possibly always be in a cycle
of compensation.
Of compensation.
Why would government then, why would the president, why would his advisors then not call on the commission to set up a body like this? Why would we need to call on other parties outside of the commission to say, well, okay, fine, these are the complaints that we're hearing from the people? Why wouldn't they say the commission then would be able to handle this? This is the work you do every day.
I think I was trying to avoid that too, but then
sorry, but
I was trying to avoid that. But I think if you look at, I think part of the commitment of the broad-based government, I think part of the commitment was to deal with victims of police brutality. Particularly those that are related to 2017 general elections, as well as 2022, and then 2024 and 2025. So possibly, I think this is being done in fulfillment of that.
Really?
Maybe, Dennis. Maybe. I would look at it from that. Because, I mean, all the tenets are lacking. The tenets of acknowledgement, the tenets of apology, the tenets of non-repetition, all of them are lacking. So where do you really place this? Yeah, I would look at it.
So we say the exercise that is ongoing right now is pure politics, simply because individuals sat in a boardroom, agreed on a 10-point agenda, and top on that agenda was to compensate victims, not because they want to, not because they are willing to stop, but simply because there is a political agenda that we want to achieve because we put it on paper.
No, I think
because one would say, when you talk about police brutality, it is the very same government that would come and tell you on such and such a date we deployed X number of police officers with X number of bullets, with X number of guns, with serial numbers, right?
Yes.
And they were deployed under command responsibility of this officer, you know, and they went back to the barracks. Even lunch they were offered A, B, C, D, right? But it is the very same government that is not coming out to tell you that out of investigations that you've taken, these are the number of bullets we gave out, these are the ones that have returned. And those that were used, investigations show they were lodged in X person and have been retrieved, ballistics have taken place. The government is not doing any of that, but individuals sit, decide on a broad-based government 10-point agenda, and then we see compensation. Can there ever be justice? Can there ever be compensation without justice, or vice versa?
No, I think government, again, has the primary role, promoting, defending, fulfilling, and providing an enabling environment where people, not just human rights defenders, where everyone should be able to exercise and realize their rights. So, I mean, when it comes to doing this, I know there could be hits and misses. There could be a couple of trials and errors. But I think finally the end game should be to ensure that after all is done, we are at a point where rights of every person is promoted and protected, even with the trials and errors. The compensation thing could be a trial and error, but which is aimed at ensuring that those who suffered in one way or the other get some form of reprieve. But then, can we compensate and do the other things that come with it? I think that's what we are calling, as actors working in this space, compensate, do it rightly, of course, expand this, but also do the other things that come with it, which is really ensuring that there's accountability for human rights violations. I think that's the bottom line, so that we have an environment where everyone is free.
What would you say is the reason why the government is going for human rights defenders? From where you sit? I
mean, from where I sit and from the Commission's perspective is the role played by defenders in terms of watchdogging the government is a role that never sits well with the government. Because if you look at the things that defenders do, they expose the bad. They expose all those things that no one wants to speak about. So they'll expose corruption, they'll expose bad governance, they'll expose extrajudicial executions, they'll expose enforced disappearances. In certain cases, they would empower the public and all those. So, I mean, in that context, you'll always find that the government would never, and that's why I told you, funding of national human rights institutions across the world, for example, and these are states-created agencies. They have challenges of funding, they have challenges of implementation of their recommendations, they have challenges of staffing, they have challenges, all those challenges. So for me, for the Commission, it's just a case of making their life difficult so that they are not able to deliver what is expected from them. And so that we have a free space where we can do what we want. Because despite the fact that the government is the primary duty bearer, the government is also the greatest violator of human rights when it comes to allocation of resources, provision of education.
Is this
health.
Across governments, or are we talking about this particular government?
No, I think it applies across governments.
Across governments in all over the world.
Across governments all over the world.
We're essentially saying governments are the largest and greatest, because those two are not the same. In terms of number and also in terms of degree and depth, the worst perpetrator. So then I'm still wondering then, how do you set up a commission to check these excesses when it's already known, it's common knowledge that you who is setting up the commission know that you're the worst at this thing, but then we expect that you would listen to the recommendations of the commission and that you would actually make sure that this doesn't happen again, either by setting a precedent, by prosecuting people who actually do. It seems as though we set up these commissions to make it seem as though something is being done, knowing full well that they will not be able to actually live out the mandate that has been accorded them because of you yourself. It seems a very difficult position that the commission
it's a very difficult. It's a very difficult position. I think not just for Ken Chiechar, but if you look at Chapter 15 commissions that we really call the defenders of the Constitution, they have a very difficult role in terms of defending and ensuring that what is provided for in the Constitution is implemented. But I think one of the things that we must also all agree to is that government has what I would call, it has monopoly of power. We say it has monopoly of violence, but this can only be checked by these creations, the commissions, of course the judiciary, the legislature, all those in one way or the other, they need to support each other, because I think it's work that cannot be done by a single institution. It's work that calls for a lot of collaboration from state agencies, because we know the executive yields immense powers, and it's powers that needs to be checked, and that is where the Constitution has provided for all these. Of course, the commissions, we have the judiciary as well as other institutions that really help in ensuring that there's accountability for what the government promises to do.
And is that also not a problem or bottleneck? Because what we seem to see, unlike we say, the Constitution and the law is very clear, but you have these layered agencies that then do these checks and balances that at some point there's conflict. And I'll give an example. This is outside this human rights conversation. For example, you have ESCC, you have the ODPP, you have the judiciary, you've got the police on one side. So you'll find the ODPP will say, okay, we want to prosecute, this is how we want to do it. ESCC will come and say, no, hold on a minute. This is actually how this should go. So you have the subject matter, you've got this conflict going on behind the scenes because of these layered agencies that are supposed to work then together. And in your case, I'm sure you're supposed to be then working with IPOA, for example, correct?
Yes.
So if IPOA then is lagging, then it also stops you from going on with your work, right? Because you don't have prosecutorial powers.
Yes.
Same thing with IPOA. And at the end of the day, all these things, after all the talk is done, it has to still go to the ODPP. Is that also not a problem?
No, Dennis, I don't think it's a problem. It's a problem.
Or a bottleneck. A bottleneck.
It's a bottleneck. I think that's the right term. It's a bottleneck. Because I think one of the things we say in the government is that we have this thing that we call one government approach. I think that is one. But number two, that we also have independence of institutions. And institutions, guard their mandate so fiercely.
And can also be influenced.
Yes. But I think the bottom line, I think, for all these institutions, whether it's the Commission, whether it's IPOA, whether it's SEC, is to ensure that members of the public are able to access what they require. That if your rights are violated, you should be able to get a redress. And therefore, the need for collaboration. That is why I think in the government cycles, we have a couple of these. There are institutions that bring, there are frameworks that bring them together. Like, for example, we have a framework known as National Council on Administration of Justice that brings in all these actors working on access to justice. So you'll find the police there, you'll find KNCHR, you'll find IPOA, ODPP, and all that. So they use some of this framework to discuss some of these challenges that you are saying, because it's been argued rightly that these bottlenecks in one way or the other affects delivery of service. It affects institutions from doing what is required. So frameworks like NCAJ that also has subcommittees then ensure that we are able to discuss these bottlenecks and get away that would make things move faster.
What, in your opinion, then, do you find as the major bottleneck to justice? So you've collected, because a lot of times people argue, you will be so good at collecting numbers and doing reports and having all these reports, but you have no teeth to bite. So in this case, you have the number of people who are killed. You know the people who killed them. We know their names and their families. We know those who are maimed. And then you put a report, so we have 100 people, this and this is what happened. 40 people, this and this is what happened. And then what next? In your opinion, what is the biggest stumbling block to having then justice at the end of the day? The reason why the commission exists in the first place?
I think the biggest stumbling block is really the lethargy that we see in other state institutions that are expected to, say, do prosecution, do investigation, do follow-ups and all that. And I think the issue of collaboration, because one of the challenges that we face is, for example, the Commission will do, and you put it rightly, the Commission does not have prosecutorial powers. Also, if you look at our investigative powers, is that we have in powers, but we do human rights investigation. So when it comes to doing criminal investigations, we depend on the National Police Service. And it's expected that when you have a matter, of course, you'll make a referral and say, this has come to our attention, this and this has been done, but at this level, we need your cooperation. That will stay 4, 5, 6 months without getting a feedback. So you can imagine what that
because they're the perpetrators.
Yes, so you can imagine what that means. So for me, the issue of collaboration between institutions, if we can have collaboration that is fruitful, collaboration that allows for quick feedback, quick responses, quick actions, I think we would be able to deal with a couple of the challenges that we have.
Samson, let me just throw this question there. So here's a question where you've done your investigations, but gets to a point where you now need to refer it to the police, right? And it is a matter that squarely falls on their door. So even when you're making these recommendations, has it ever occurred to you to just know, fine, you're making recommendations, but we know nothing is going to happen? How many times has that idea hit you, and how do you proceed?
If you look at the structure of the National Police Service, for example, within the National Police Service, we have what we call internal affairs units that deal with issues of internal oversight and internal accountability. But now on the outside, we have Independent Policing Oversight Authority. And I'm using this because we are speaking about the police. Now, and I have the opportunity to have been engaged in developing the National Police Service Act and in the Independent Policing Oversight Authority Act. We were aware of these facts, of the challenges that police officers, number one, cannot investigate themselves. They cannot hold themselves to account. They cannot do all these things. And they're also the biggest perpetrators. That is why we established an internal affairs unit within the service, so that that unit would help even in working with other organizations like us. So that if you have an issue, particularly, let's say, a matter where you require investigation of a police officer, we would make a direct contact with internal affairs unit. Unfortunately, the internal affairs unit also works under the Inspector General. Okay? But then now we have the external oversight. So in cases where we hit bottlenecks, particularly with internal affairs unit, then we move to independent policing oversight authority. So they are all, in one way or the other, you find that you'll face challenges here, but there'll always be a way out. That way out might not work as fast as you expect, but it delivers results, because I know there are cases where commissioners investigated, referred to IPOA, referred to ODPP, and we've seen prosecution of police officers or people that have violated rights. So it works, yes, but at a very slow pace. And that's why I said, haki ayozi. At some point, violations will always, they'll catch up with you at some point.
Have there been examples where such a thing has been asked for and government has actually said, okay, here excesses have been realized, we've understood that something needs to be done, and has actually seen the process through where a violation has occurred, there has been recognition of that violation, there has been an attempt at reconciliation and restoration, and the process has been seen through? Ever?
In Kenya?
Yes.
That's like asking if a camel has ever passed through the eye of a needle in Kenya. You see how Samson took a back seat, like, in Kenya?
He's asking in Kenya, like, oh my Lord, is it possible?
Where is in Ethiopia? We're in Kenya, brother.
I mean, I would look at it. Dennis, I look at it from. Okay.
No, don't look at it.
No, let me go to it. I would say that there are cases. I would not call it whether there has been a case where you said this happened, government has acknowledged, and something has been done about. Let me give you an example. We've consistently spoken about the issue of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial executions. And the government, of course, through the National Police Service, has always indicated that they have challenges in dealing with this. So whether it's in terms of investigations, in terms of documentation and all that. So one of the things the government did arising out of our intervention, of course, after persistent reminders and follow-up, is that it's ended up in putting together a multi-agency team.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Yes. So the multi-agency team is comprised of state institutions that in one way or the other have a significance on conversations of enforced disappearances.
Okay.
So in that multi-agency team, we have Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, we have the Office of the Attorney General, we have ODPP, we have Independent Policing Oversight Authority, and then we have some other few CSO that are consistently speaking about this. Now, arising out of that, the expectation is that this and I can see the way Dennis is looking at me, is that this multi-agency team would help in advising the government in terms of what should be done. So it is a process.
Oh my Lord.
Samson, wait. Samson, you know, you are a good man. You have very good thoughts and very good wishes, and you're very optimistic. And now, let's come back to Kenya.
Yes.
You know, if you walk around, and Dennis, if you walk around these hotels in this city, you'll be surprised how many stakeholder meetings are happening behind these conference rooms.
Yes.
And then the tea breaks, and then the lunch. The multi-agencies that Samson is saying, these term multi-agency, you know, if the things you're so good at in this country, task forces, committees,
to have a conversation,
multi-agencies, to have a conversation. Look, you're talking about forced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. It's not my neighbor Alex or my neighbor in your neighborhood. Do you wake up in the morning, start killing people around, and then you disappear, and then the government does not know, okay, what happened to these people? We know the actors. So you have these same actors meeting and having tea and their budgets around this to discuss. Guys, what should we do? People, we have noticed people have disappeared. Wait.
No, I mean,
you know, people have disappeared, eh?
So let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
And you know, they disappeared in our vehicles.
Yeah, and then we say that is an intervention that has been taken to deal with this thing.
I mean, look, and if you look at it, is one of the things the government says is, and one of the roles that we play is to advise the government.
That does not listen.
Definitely listens to others, but does not listen to others. So The dog that you spoke about.
Does it tire you?
No, it doesn't tire us. It's not tiring us. It's not tiring us because, of course, we see results to it. The results might be slow, but we see results. I mean, from time to time. So we know. And for me, we always say that we should never tire from speaking about violations. We should never tire from supporting human rights defenders. We should never tire from doing the right thing. Increasingly, at some point, a step made, we will never get back to really, we'll never get back to where we started.
You know, if we look back and say, okay, history can then inform us that, okay, you can, there is a point where we can go back and say, look, it worked. Let's even go to the Wagala massacre. This was 83, 84, thereabout.
Yes.
When it happened, there was a whole report that was done. Recommendations were made, these recommendations that you're talking about. But do you know, there is no single senior official that has ever been prosecuted from Wagala massacre. Yes. Okay, we come back to TJRC. The report was done and presented to the president. Again, very good, fine recommendations in a report, and the document was done. But until today, we don't see anything.
Post-election
violence.
Nothing.
Same thing. Apart from the fellows then who went to ICC. Again, no prosecution.
Yeah.
Today, we're talking about anti-finance bill protests and last year, Sabasaba protests. Again, we're still talking about recommendations. We will sit together in this task force.
And on that note, because I mean, I think the signs in the hands of the sands of time are very clear. Samson Omondi, the Assistant Director of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, having conversation about shrinking spaces for human rights defenders. That's been our conversation. I guess a cliffhanger sometimes, in terms of where we're going, is a good thing. Thank you for being here on the show this morning and for at least opening our eyes to some of the realities that exist. And thank you for keeping it Kenya's biggest conversation on this Justice Thursday. Those are the conversations that we have had. And as you've been out with us on the show, we say thank you and we'll continue talking about these things. Have a good morning and the rest of the day at 10:01. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Treasury CS John Mbadi says the government plans to invest 6.8